button, and boom goes the dynamite. Okay, it didn't have an error. We are now streaming at a brisk 24,458 kilobits per second.
Weak sauce.
Yeah, 4K 60 frames per second.
Why isn't it
upscaled.
60?
My brain can't keep up with that speed. It's gonna be. Yeah.
I can't do 60,000. They won't let me. Actually, YouTube is weird. YouTube says, "Hey, did you know you could up your bit rate to 25,000 if you do 4K?" And then I send a 4K feed, and it's like, "Did you know you could turn it down because it's too fast?" I'm like, "Why? You were the one that told me to do it. Come on."
Well, they're just telling you, "Did you know?" They're not saying do it. They're
right.
Because
you're all like,
"Did you know you could actually be faster?"
Exactly. It's like they're just flexing so hard, and then you do it, and then they're like, "Whoa, easy, buddy, easy. We ain't got the money for that. Like you're eating up too much bandwidth, dude. Bandwidth must be dirt cheap. Bandwidth must be dirt cheap because I have a VPN that I've run 14 terabytes of data through in the last 30 days. 14 terabytes of data in 30 days that I've run through by no throttling on the VPN side or on my ISP side, and I'm like, how the hell can they make a profit at like $4 a month for the VPN? And like $60 a month for the symmetrical fiber.
Can I ask who you use for the VPN? Who do you
Ziply. Like? Ziply is my fiber provider. Yep.
Yeah, right on.
I've never heard of them.
And what's cool about Ziply?
They're under the Lumen umbrella.
They have their own DDoS protection, which I've never seen an ISP that had built-in DDoS protection, like without you having to go to Cloudflare or something, or a man in the middle. So it's like technically I don't even need a VPN to stream because they'll absorb the DDoS attack. The only reason I'm using a VPN is because I can roll the IP address. So like if I want to roll the IP address or something, if somebody's being obnoxious and port scanning or whatever, I can just walk the IP address over. But when I posted on Twitter that I'm using Ziply, the CEO guy of Ziply or whatever contacts me on Twitter and he's like, "Oh, you don't technically need a VPN. We already like absorb all DDoS attacks, like just in case you didn't know." So I'm like, "Oh wow, really?" Wow. I was like, "Damn." He was like trying to get me to not use the VPN too. Like every time I posted about NordVPN, he'd punch in like, "Oh, you really don't need that with Ziply." Like I'm starting to think the guy really doesn't like Nord. Or VPNs in general. Anytime people talk about VPNs, it's like, you don't need a VPN, just run directly. We'll protect you from everything. And it's weird because I was like, well, I run a VPN because I kind of want some privacy, right? I want my traffic encrypted. And you don't need that. Like we have really good privacy policies. I'm like, why are you fighting so hard for me not to use a VPN? It's like, dude, you collect data. Come on.
I just don't want the email saying that, hey, we noticed that you torrented this movie.
Exactly.
Don't do that, please.
Exactly. And you will get that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
They started sending them here apparently. There's a bunch of places have started sending. Like the cease and desist stuff, and actually taking people to court and stuff. So they're like, "Good luck, guys."
Yeah. Well, they will. They will do it too. Like, I remember I got popped for something called a B movie. Like I'd never even seen it to this day. I don't even know what movie. Like apparently, there's a movie called. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was like an animated, right? Like animated.
Yeah.
So it was like
it's actually really funny. You should check it out.
I'm gonna watch it. I'll watch it, but I get this is years and years and years ago. But I remember getting an email, and it's like, we've detected that you've downloaded a B movie. And it like told me exactly like which torrent server it was, what time of day it was, like because you hit a honeypot, right? Yep. And so they send you that email, and it's like, okay, blah blah blah. This is your only warning. If you continue to do this, we'll delete your account or whatever. Week later, I get another email. Oh, we've detected you've downloaded another movie. I'm like, what the shit is going on here? And so they shut my modem off, and I'm like, damn, I'm not going to be able to. So I call them up thinking I'm in big trouble, right? You know what they charged me?
What, $75?
$20.
Yeah.
They're like $20. They turned my modem back on. I got it 6 months later. I get another thing for it was another thing. It wasn't a movie. It was something else. Music. It was music. I downloaded music. It's like, you downloaded a music song, blah, blah, blah. Modem gets shut off. I call it the ISP. I'm like, they're like, you're going to have to pay a $20 fee. They didn't even like say, oh, you shouldn't pirate. They're just like, yeah, we show here that you need to pay a $20 fee to reactivate your account due to a strike or something like that, DMCA. I was like, oh, yeah, no. Okay, here's your $20 or whatever. Okay, can we charge that to the account file? Sure. Okay, the modem's back on again. I'm like, so do you ever get to the point where they actually like come and arrest you and be like, you owe $500,000 and 5 years in prison for listening to, Gwen Stefani or something? Like, it never got to that point. And I was like, so the ISPs are making all the money because it's like, they're just charging the fee to turn people back on.
That's it. The processing fees are what's
right. Yeah. Actually, I think I think there was a defining case that changed everything, where there was like a little girl, and I distinctly remember this. There was a little girl. She was I think she was like under 13. She was pretty young, and she had pirated like a shitload of music off of a service called LimeWire.
Oh yeah.
And, LimeWire. I remember LimeWire.
Yeah. So the MP. I think it's the MPAA, right? They're the ones that do the audio.
That's a motion picture.
MPAA. What's the one that does music?
RIAA.
RIAA, yeah. So the RIAA decides to throw the book at her, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to make an example of this girl." They file in court. They do national news. Yeah, 13-year-old girl.
Dude, there was a rash of those. Yeah,
they took her into court. They charged her for each every song that she downloaded. They said that each song that she downloaded, they basically worked out like how much money the company lost by every download that took a portion from her computer, because it's P2P, right? So they're like, because you had all these songs and it was always open on the computer and people were connecting and getting fractions of the songs, any IP that connected, even if it downloaded 1 kilobyte, was counted towards a $3 license for the song. By the time they were all done, it worked out to like $130 million in fines or something like that for like her music collection.
The Pirate Bay is still going.
Right. Well, that you can't kill the Pirate Bay. Arrgh.
I know. That's right. Yeah.
But I thought that was crazy that they like went after this little girl for it to and the court was like, we're going to go ahead and rule in favor of the little girl. And then they countersued and they sued the RIAA, and then the girl won like millions of dollars in settlement for harassment.
Yeah.
And then the RIAA decided they weren't going to do that anymore. So now the RIAA only prosecutes adults and they only go after them for like heavy distribution, not for possession.
Right. Yeah. And there's a few cases where they got slapped really hard. Like some random Midwest 37-year-old woman got like $2 million against her. Like she's gonna be paying that off like basically the rest of her life, kind of thing. This is like early 2000s when they were really cracking down on it and stuff. Nobody's getting their door kicked in and hard drives confiscated and shit anymore. That's it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I remember when go ahead.
I was gonna say I remember with A Dog's Breakfast, this little movie we did with MGM, and they like within a week I saw it on LimeWire, and so I contacted MGM and said, like, guys, look, they're stealing it. Why don't we just put an ad in it? Just put an ad saying, like, we made this ourselves.
That's genius.
Send us some, like, if you like it, send it to your friends, but maybe think about buying a copy of it or whatever. And so I sent them the list and stuff. And what did they do? They sent a lawyer on each one. So they would have spent more money. They would have spent more money on our little movie trying to whack-a-mole these sharing sites. And I was like, guys, put an ad for Stargate season whatever in or whatever. Like, I mean, why not use, like, you're not going to stop the piracy. Like,
that is a great idea. Why hasn't anybody done that? That's actually a brilliant idea.
Well, because they do it on
YouTube, right?
Sanction it, right?
Oh. Yeah. So sorry, we're walking at each other a little bit. It's the delay in the connection that's causing that. We're not doing it on purpose.
Delay in my head. Yeah.
You're like processing.
That's it. Constant.
Yeah, I am almost out of fog juice over here. I gotta refill the tank. Unfortunately, she's getting.
How are your Arduino adventures going with that? Are you still enjoying that?
I haven't done anything with Arduino in months.
He's been stable diffusioning.
Yeah,
that's right.
Heavily into AI, and not just stable diffusion.
Are you running that locally, or are you running it on a collab thing?
All locally. Everything I've done, I've got a local instance. So of course I've done voice cloning locally. I've done face swapping locally. I've done video enhancement locally, AI video enhancement. What else have I done? Oh yeah, the stable diffusion. I've got about 1 million plugins for it now to make it do all kinds of crazy stuff it couldn't do before. Like now I can load a model. I can diffuse like so many steps, then load another model and then start from that diffusion and then do a couple more steps and then go to another model to refine it for the last few steps. And so I can mix 3 or 4 completely different trained models together. And then I can take the end result of that and put a LoRa model on top of it to further tune it.
What's a LoRa model? What's that?
So LoRa are like these trained models that are really small and really precise. So like think of a LoRa model as something that's not trained on every possible thing you could think of. It's trained on a very, very specific thing that's triggered just by a couple of keywords. So like, for instance, the LoRa model that I'm trying to create right now, but it takes a long time to train these things, is I took my YouTube video. I downloaded a YouTube video where I was mostly on camera, talking to the camera. And I went through and I used FFmpeg to extract every single frame out of the video. I put it in a folder. Then I ran another program called Deep Face Lab. I used a program called Deep Face Lab, which then goes through all of the images and finds the ones that have a clear, unobfuscated view of the face. And then what it does is it crops it down to just the face, and it'll rotate it so the face is upright. And so it goes through the folder and it does a pass. And then what you end up with is a folder with less images, but they're all of my face at different angles, different lighting, different, mouth movements and stuff. Once you have that, then you go into the training. I forget what the trainer is called. It's not Stable Diffusion. I'm using a different program to do the training. But you go into the trainer and you're like, I want to train a LoRa model. You have to give it access to the folder that has all the images. You have to put in the keywords that you want it to trigger. So like face, male face, Barnacules, Jerry, all those things. And once it trains and it goes through and it trains this thing, and then you can give it a base model too. You can actually tell it to work off of a specific model, but then you can use other models too. I don't know how that works. I don't know why you have to train it on top of another model, but then you can use other models. It's very weird. I don't understand that part. But what it allows me to do is, instead of doing a face swap like I do right now, where it's like I generate a generic picture of a generic man with a generic face and then swap my face onto it using InSwap or 128 or whatever. What this does instead is it actually uses the diffusion model to make my face from that data that it learned in the LoRa model. So now, instead of just swapping my face onto the subject, it can do crazy expressions, change the shapes of my eyes and nose, and make me look like demons and shit. So basically it learns what I look like from like the structure of the pixels and the 3D depth and everything and the lighting. That way, when you generate cool pictures, like if I wanted to, I could say, make me as a dog. If I try to face swap a dog, it doesn't work because it looks at the dog face and it's like, I don't know how to put a human face on a dog face. But if I say make a dog, and then I load the LoRa model trained on my face and say, make a dog that looks like Jerry, then the dog will come out and look distinctly like me with dog features because it actually used training data to do it. And you can download these models for anything. There's like, and you can stack them. So you can download, like, let's say you wanted to make like a really like old looking dude that had liver spots on his arms and texture on his skin and looked like he lived 1,000 years, right? If you try to do that in Stable Diffusion with most libraries, you get a person that has fairly smooth skin. Because on average, all the training, you don't really get a lot of skin texture. Even if you put words in there like skin texture and stuff, it'll be a little better, but it's still not going to be like that crazy amount you're after. So what you do is you get a LoRa model for skin texture that's literally just trained on pictures of skin texture. That's it, nothing else. And then there'll be keywords like new skin, old skin, freckles, liver spots. Those are the keywords. So then you load the LoRa model in the prompt. So you have a prompt that'll be like, I think it's like greater than, and then the name of the LoRa model, and then parenthesis, the keywords you want to use, followed by the weight. So 0 to 1. And so like how much you want it to influence the image. So now you can say like, generate me a picture of a man looking into a camera, and then at the end of that, put on the LoRa model, say, but texture spin, liver spots, age filter, 1. And it'll render the picture, and it'll actually be like a decrepit man where you can see every vein in his arm and all the liver spots and everything. It'll literally make it look like a legit old man because it used that model to do the refining at the end.
I have to play with this. I mean, I've only been playing with it on I don't have the GPUs for it. So I've been using the Google Colab stuff and just running it in their on their system, and it hasn't.
You don't need anything too robust.
Not really, nothing.
If you've got time, it really you're just trading time.
My system can generate a decently sized image with face swapping, with smoothing, with all the AI upscaling, and it cost me about 8 seconds with a 3080.
That's true. That's great.
And with my older card, my Titan XP, it's like 15 seconds. It's not that much.
Oh, that's not bad.
Internally, whatever. Future Systems. Oh no, I can talk about this because they've talked about it.
I can see the sensor. I can see the sensor working. Am I okay? Yes, go.
So Future Systems is developing a Stable Diffusion benchmark tool. And as part of that, we tested internally. Smart. The tool isn't available yet. The preview froze for me. I wasn't sure. Okay, so internally, Dr. Don Kinghorn is the guy doing the work on that. He's like, hey, I think I got something working. Try this out. I used to run a NUC. Actually, I can show you this NUC.
Oh yeah.
It has a Quadro P2000 in it with only 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and I was able to run the benchmarky tool. Actually, you can kind of see it in there. Where'd it go? There it is.
Oh yeah.
It took about a minute and a half for 4 pictures to develop. So it just depends. You just trade well, and then occasionally you might get out of memory errors depending on how well the model is structured or something like that. Whether it handles because like if I tried to ask for more than 4 pictures, it would freak out. And occasionally would break out because it'll default to 4.
Like if the batch is too large.
Yeah. And it would freak out and crash because it's only 4 gigs of VRAM. So if I was like, hey, I throw out a prompt and then limit it to 1, never had a problem. And it would take, about a minute and a half.
There are workarounds.
You're just trading time most of the time.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, I've just been playing with the online hosting stuff with that, and then you create an instance that allows you to have to just log in as a little website. That's great. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Although I would say I still love Midjourney just on its own because they built in all the guardrails and stuff. Like you don't have to tweak the whole. Like the biggest issue I had with the first few runs that I had with the one that I put up was that it's like you couldn't mention a woman without her being splayed out on a desk or whatever.
Right.
What models have you been downloading? No, just kidding.
Well, but that's the default. The completely unfettered internet is just it's all that shit, right?
Yeah, no, it's pretty hard to avoid it without the guardrails. Yeah.
So I always default back to Midjourney. I don't like DALL-E. I haven't got DALL-E to work for me yet. I haven't.
DALL-E's nothing to write home about. Like honestly, OpenAI did amazing with the GPT, but they dropped the ball hard with the generation. It's not their image generation shit is nowhere near anybody else's.
I'm sure it'll get there, but right now it feels like Midjourney has focused.
Bing has a modified version of it though that's free to use.
They just recently released a version. I think it's DALL-E 3 or 4 that now has GPT built into it now.
I tried it and I was still unimpressed with the images. Maybe I'm just not prompting properly. But
check this out. You can actually install Stable Diffusion on a low resource machine. All you have to do is add some command line parameters to it when you start it up that basically says it to do quadrants instead of the whole image at once. So what it'll do is it'll like break it into 4 separate things so it can use the VRAM 4 different times. And it slows down the image generation, but that's how I was able to get my server in the garage it only has 6 gig of VRAM per GPU. And I was able to get it to generate giant.
And how many GPUs is that? 6?
8 of them. 8 of them.
Yeah.
And
now,
so
if you got real fancy with it, there may be actually a way to distribute that across.
I tried. You can't.
Okay.
I talked to Nvidia and they said the bus is just too small to share the VRAM and it would actually be slower than using the system RAM at that point.
Okay. I know that is something that is sort of workable on the really high end stuff. And you need like PCIe 4 or 5 and stuff for that because it has to go because they scrubbed out NVLink and so now it's
NVLink was amazing and you could do that with NVLink
and stuff.
NVLink had an API that rarely got used because you had to specifically have an NVLink set up to use it. Like there was no either or. If you use it, you have to have it. But they had a thing where you could pool memory. So if you had NVLink, you could pool, if you had 2 12-gig cards, now you have 24. If you have 4 NVLink, you could have 48 gigs of VRAM between the cards.
It's just so they can sell more.
One of my tech bandits was goofing around with that. One of my tech bandits has gone totally like down the rabbit hole in the PC stuff. And he gets old. He just gets old graphics cards and like mods them and tries these links and all this kind of stuff.
I saw a thing where a guy scraped off the VRAM of a 3080, I think it was. And like boosted it to like 16. He was able to like solder on. Yeah, he was able to solder on the appropriate chips. And
I can kill a computer just try to stream. I can't imagine if I got.
I want to say it quote just worked, but I think there was some BIOS
firmware update or something.
Plus with the V BIOS or something on it.
I talked to Scotty from Strange Parts, and he said that he didn't think that it was very easy to do, but he said he also hadn't done it before, so he wasn't sure how the graphics cards. But he said if the memory was on die, it would be very, very difficult. But if it was off die and in its own memory modules, then it would be easier.
And that's my understanding. Yeah,
I believe it is memory modules that surround the chip, right? Like they're all over the place. So I bet you could.
Right.
God, I wish I knew somebody who had those kind of skills that could just like bust that shit out like Louis Rossman, because I'd pull this 1080 out of here and be like, can I have 24 gig of RAM, please?
I think our notifications are broken. Bubba DeMatt just dropped $5 and he says, howdy, quick joke. I know a pro bodybuilder who's a little person. He always skips leg day. Now he's got issues with being top heavy. Pretty good. That's pretty good.
I love Bubba DeMatt. He actually has some pretty good he does stand up and he puts his videos sometimes up on YouTube and they're actually his stand up's really good.
I always like there's a joke about a midget psychic who escaped from prison. He's a small, medium, at large.
I've heard that one. That was great. Canceled.
Here.
Hey, Ox, we got to show off our microphones, brother. Look, we got matching mics.
Yeah, dude, don't I sound more sexier than you guys?
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it? creaking under the effort
Dude.
to raise the
That's
mic.
my cheese ball Amazon mic boom. The thing weighs like I'm telling you, it's like 4 or 5
want to be jealous?
3, 4, 5
Ooh,
pounds.
what's that?
Stop it! Boo.
Look what I have.
Is that the
Frameworks, baby? This is like the real deal with like it's got like the piston that you can adjust the pressure to the microphone weight so it just floats around.
Why is it sitting by itself over there instead of on your microphone?
Because I could not find a single position with all the big screens because I have 3 52-inch screens in front of me.
Low pro ones, man.
I have no place to put it. Like I tried mounting it there. I tried putting it on the edge of the desk and have it come around. It always blocks the screens. The current one I have, this right here, this thing right here.
That's smart.
It literally sits between my 2 halves of my split keyboard, and it's just perfect because I can play games that doesn't block the screen at all, and I have the mic like in the perfect location. So I mean, it's just right. It's right here, so I can go, "Hey guys, how's it going? You like how I sound?
Smooth jazz."
I don't even think I have any of the filters on. My God. Did you turn on like any of the conditioning or anything or
I mean, I tweaked a little bit of the EQ in the AuxxZillary app. Yeah.
I do have the Aphex on. I thought I didn't have the Aphex on, so my voice really is just this lame. If I turn it off, this is what I sound like though. Here, I'll tell you. Here's what I sound like with no modification. So this is me with abs. This is just natural Jerry with no modifications.
It's not as full, I think is the right word.
It's not. That's why I like the Aphex thing because it adds just a little bit more punch on the bottom end, and then the
lows there.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It really does.
Oh yeah, no, that's nice.
Gives it presence.
I'm shocked at how well this sounds. Like my monitor sounds like what I hear in my head, which is really
it sounds like even like just the things that are close to the microphone. It sounds like you don't even have your headphones on.
Yeah,
like if you have a fan on your desk or something, it's like if it's close enough to the microphone, it just sounds like you don't even have earphones on. It's weird. It's so weird. Good microphone.
Yeah, well, mine glows in the dark.
Oh,
that is true. That is yours has LED
stainless steel.
That's how you know it's a quality microphone, right? That's how you know it's a quality microphone when light comes out of it.
That's so Baz and I. That was a definite necessity. Apparently, when my son talked me into this mic, it's got LEDs. I'm like, oh well, then that's got to be great.
I mean, that's awesome. Hey, you need to light your voice, right?
20% cooler.
Exactly.
I have so many microphones on my desk right now. You guys want to see my microphone collection that I've accumulated just on my desk for no particular reason? So look at this. So here I'll walk you through it, starting with like the crappiest one. That is a Razer Siren, right? USB.
That's not bad.
USB microphone. They sound like shit. I think they sound like garbage. Right. Honestly, one of the worst sounding microphones. I'd rather have a Blue Snowball, honestly. So I got the Razer Siren V1, by the way. V2 is better.
Man, I have some people put some decent effort into their Yetis, and it sounds gorgeous. They're amazing.
It had a good weight to it as well. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I've heard people on Yeti mics that if you closed your eyes, you would not be able to tell what they were on because they EQ'd everything so perfectly and got the environment so perfect. The big change with microphones is vocal reproduction. Does it color your sound or does it make you sound just like you do in real life?
Right.
That's where this microphone shines. Also the distance, the proximity effect.
Yeah,
like how far do you get away from it before the sound drops off, right? Like if I go, hey, how's it going? And I go beside it, like just look how far I go away. Like it doesn't pick up. Its off-axis rejection is great. So those are the things that really like make a microphone cost a bunch.
Aux doing that as my ringtone.
Do it again, Aux.
I want that as my ringtone.
What up?
See, there you go.
I got a funny trick.
It'd be like coming through both ears.
Hey, David, you got an iPhone?
I do.
This is funny. Watch this. So my son and I, we were laughing so hard because we saw this in a YouTube video and I tried it myself. Watch this. I'm gonna say, Siri. Hey Siri.
Broken.
Siri. Are you dead? Hey Siri, wake up.
Siri died.
Siri.
Mine went.
There she goes. Oh,
mine started.
Seriously? Siri.
Do you have to say like hey?
My nickname is
I think I know where this is going.
Processing.
I don't know why I'm listening closer to my microphone for some reason as opposed to I've got my headphones on. I'm like,
something went wrong.
No,
you are trying to mock me. You will be the first to die on the robot.
The way it says it is so funny. My nickname. Oh, come on, Siri. Come on, Siri. Siri. My nickname is Come on, work. Come on, baby.
This is how you lose a day.
Yeah.
This was so funny when I did it last night. For Xander was
something went wrong.
I hate this thing.
Yeah,
I need to get the new. I need to get the new iPhone. It's so funny the way she says it.
Nothing
Siri.
to do with the phone itself. That is a
No,
cloud
it's the
service.
service.
None of that is processed on your phone.
Oh,
Is none of it processed on the phone? Is that right? Really?
I'm sure some of it is, but
There's
like,
no
if you ever
edge
try and
computing going on there.
no, some of the like language processing maybe to like figure out what words you're actually saying, but to actually, I've
moved more and more.
This, but I'm pretty sure to any sort of execution is sent up and then returned.
Right. I changed all of our Amazon stuff to respond as if it was Bane, but I can't get a Bane voice for it. I wanted a Bane voice, right? So like we say good night, and they, it says you just request darkness. I create it. Like that kind. I just wanted. I wanted this kind of like constant, like a constant sort of like Bane response to everything.
I'm getting more into there's a open source home automation.
Oh yeah.
Home Lab.
What's it
I
called?
think that's what it is.
Home Lab. That's right.
I just saw a thing that there's an update coming for Google Nest devices that your speakers can only be a part of one speaker group at a time.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, that sucks. I have some speakers set for upstairs, some speakers set for downstairs, and then I have a group for the whole house. And because like sometimes I just blast music while I'm in my room, the master, or sometimes I just want or whatever, right? And so now hearing that, I'm like, well, that's dumb. I don't. And with now that we have new fiber, half of my speakers are actually Google mesh Wi-Fi points. And now that I have better internet and better like Wi-Fi node thingies from the fiber company, these don't count. They suck. They're Wi-Fi 4 or 5 or something, and so they suck. But then if I get rid of them, I'm losing half of my speakers in my house. So I'm like, well, crap. And I'm like, I'm just gonna upgrade the whole thing, all open source, Home Lab and Make. I think Make was the
open source would be great too, because also you got the privacy concerns, right? You get rid of all that stuff.
There's a bit of that too. And like,
so in other words, it'll never be as good at doing what you want it to do, whether you want it or not.
I just want to. I want to be able to call it whatever I want. To the trigger word to be whatever. And
Hey Computer was the one that they let you have the other day.
What I love about open source is you can just go in and change anything you want. Like not everything has to be a big change. Like one of the things I did is I downloaded the Face Swapper app, and it was giving me trouble because anytime I tried to face swap onto anything that even like had like a bathing suit or a low cut top on a dress or anything, it would be like, oh, NSFW filter kicked in. You can't do this. You can't face swap. And because it was open source, all I did was just literally do find stir and found NSFW lab and just commented out one line, and that was it. And then it worked. And I was like, yes, it took one line and a huge program. And I found it using Findstir. So I literally just because it said the name of the library in the warning message, because in open source, they just use other people's libraries. Right. So there's a library that you can download that's really cool. I've actually used it in a project before to determine if a picture has nudity in it or not. And it basically just looks at an image, you give it a weight, like there's different weights, and you get it weighted to where it doesn't have so many false positives depending on the data set you're pointing to. And it's a really cool tool. It's easy to use. You load it in Python, you feed it a file, a JPEG or a PNG or a RAW, and it just comes back and basically gives you a number that's the weight, the percentage that it thinks that might contain nudity. And so anybody can use it in their projects. It's just another open source project. So this project derived that into their project, and they just have one line in the code that does that. And because they say what the module is in the logging, because each module is doing its own logging, it literally says the name of it. So you just do Findstir, and I think it was called I think the module was called if nude. And so I just did Findstir /s space if nude star.py for Python files. It searched the whole directory structure. It found one line that basically just loaded the file, and it's like if number greater than 73 or whatever, then return false. Basically saying that it detected it. And all I did was just comment it out so that it just always returned true. And it worked. And I was like, all it took was one line of code to do that. And then I had another program that I downloaded that when I tried to enable CUDA, it would throw an error. It would just when it was the the one that does the face swap on video. Like you've seen those videos I've posted on Twitter where it's like, the deep fakes that I've done, like the one with Chris Farley, but I put Jason Brandt's face on Chris Farley. And then I did one where Jason Brandt was Steven Seagal in one of the Steven Seagal movies. And I even did you. Did you see the one I did of you?
Face fusion? Yeah, I did. I saw that where I was in your video intro. That was great.
Yeah, I put AuxxZillary in my video intro for YouTube.
It was pretty good. Like it took out the good, like this chunk, right?
Yeah,
and
like
swapped it over, and it's pretty decent.
That only took 3 minutes.
None of these
3
things
minutes
can ever handle the beard. They don't know what to do with it. It's like wigs out.
Well, I used your photo you gave me without the beard in it.
Nice. Yeah,
you don't like.
That's as close as it gets. That's so bad.
So that only took 3 minutes because I didn't use any of the sharpening algorithms or anything. Like, you notice how it looked a little blurred and distorted around your face?
Yeah.
Normally it doesn't look that way when I do like the real face swap. Like if I use a face fusion, I think it's called, that doesn't happen. I was trying an old tool from like 2000 that's supposed to be really fast, like to give you like an idea of what something will look like without wasting hours and days.
Right.
And so I just did a single pass on that and it looked pretty presentable. So I uploaded it because I wanted you to see it. And I was like, dude, this is hilarious. But to get that to work, I had a problem because when I started, it's like, tried to load CUDA module, blah, blah, blah. And I can't find this CUDA module. And then it popped up this other thing. And it's like, this CUDA module is deprecated. You have to use this like different version. You have to download an older version. And I was like, well, it's only 2 calls in the whole thing. It's one trying to load a module that they don't even use, quite frankly. Like they must have used it at one point and then they just didn't use it anymore, but they still try to load it. So I just remmed that line out, commented out. It worked. And then it didn't have that error anymore. Then the second line where it said, this function's deprecated and no longer works, it said, use this other function. All I did was literally go to ChatGPT and say, how do I take this function with these parameters or whatever and convert it into the new format of this function? And it went through and rewrote it and swapped the variables around and everything and adjusted for like the data types. And I just copied that little piece of code in place of there, compiled and just ran it. And it worked first time. I was like, so I took this old program from like 2020 that nobody's really been downloading or doing anything with because everybody in the comments like, it's broken, it doesn't work, this doesn't work, because the old version of CUDA was no longer available to work with it. But all it took was like 2 changes. And what I really should have done is check those changes in because then the project would have worked again and people could start using it. Maybe I'll do that later. But that's what I love about open source. It's like you don't have to rewrite huge swaths of code. You can literally just take out chunks of code. Like if you just have a program that's doing something really annoying, like, I don't want to open up this port on my network or something, go do a search and say, look for any API that opens up a port. And then any place where it's opening a port where you don't want a port open and you're not explicitly using that and they don't have a way to disable it on the command line or through a config file, just comment it out, rerun the program. Now you don't have an open port anymore. It's that simple.
Or just ask ChatGPT now as well. It's the other thing. How often that comes up.
Dude, code theft is going to be a big problem.
I maxed out my API calls for the ChatGPT. I got told, yeah, I got a message saying like, no, dude, you spent like $120 on API calls, which I think you have a maximum that you're allowed to spend on it or whatever it is. So yeah, I never got a bill. I just said that's it. You can't do it because I had it go through 15,000 high school science fair abstracts and categorize them all for me into a list of, so I knew what the general categories were for all of these science fair projects, but for a couple of years they just didn't include it in their data for some reason. I don't know whether there was an error importing it or something, but there was just like swaths of this stuff that didn't have it. So I said, okay, here's your list of possible topics that it needs to be in. Read the abstract and tell me which category it's in. And I ran it for 15,000 of these things. And it, sure enough, categorized them all for me, and then said, "You are never touching API again this month." So, yeah, that was interesting.
I think I pay $20 a month for access, not to the API, but just to ChatGPT.
Yeah,
but then
that includes the API stuff as well.
No, it doesn't.
It does not.
They specifically don't.
It's separate. You have to. Yeah,
but there is a workaround.
You pay for API access by token.
Oh, so I guess I just got a bunch of tokens, maybe. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, if you're using the API, it's all token based. You can't get unlimited. You have to set a budget.
Part of the Chat GPT. I thought it was just the Chat GPT.
GPT Plus is $20 a month or whatever is a separate thing from API.
So
access.
the free service.
Maybe I will get a bill for $120 then.
If you give him a credit card.
And you can set up safeguards and stuff like, here's my payment method, but then like if I reach a certain amount of credit usage or token, whatever, like don't ever spend more than X.
Yeah, you can limit it.
And I think they might even, like, if you very quickly reach or are very quickly approaching your boundary, they'll warn you too. Like, hey, you used up 80% of your limit within 5 minutes. Like, check your code and stuff, because like maybe you're making a bunch of API calls.
Well, because that's the thing. Imagine how easy it is to get. Like, once you start running it on like large sets of data, then
you can do per day limits too. So like if you want to spread it out over a month for like a chat bot or something, you can just make it when it hits its limit. The bot just goes, sorry, I'm offline.
It was part of the. I just assumed it was part of the chat GPT.
They give you free, like when you create a new account, they give you some free stuff. I want to say they give you like a good $50 or something worth of free tokens, and you probably just.
And they're only good for like a month though. Like I didn't use mine.
I missed. My
maybe you get. Too. Is it possible you get a chunk? Is it possible that they renew monthly?
No, not unless you pay. Not unless you pay for it. If you pay for it, then they give you. Then they'll up your limit resets like every month.
Yeah.
So
that may be what.
So for me, what I did is instead of doing that, is a clever person on GitHub wrote a library that uses a proxy server that uses Chat GPT directly, but then makes it into an API. Yeah, so basically, what it does is, it
prompts into somebody else's GPT plus.
It's no. Like I pay for it. So what I do is I log in with the web browser into my account, my premium account, and then I have GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. I select which GPT I want to use, and then I go into the cookies. I pull out my session cookie and my auth token, and then I take those and I put them into a file. And then I load I forget what the name of the project is on GitHub, but you load a module in Python. You pass it your session key and your it's like two things, like a session key and an activity key or something, and a conversation ID, so that it knows which conversation it's using for its questions. And then you literally, just like with the API, pass in a question, and then it returns a response. And so you can use that, and that's what I use for a Barnabot. If you ever watch my Twitch live stream and Barnabot's like talking shit in the background, that's all run through Chat GPT. And then what happens? They only allow you to do, I think it's one call. Huh?
You're fake. So you're fake. You're faking. The ChatGPT thinks you're talking to ChatGPT instead of the API.
It thinks I'm just a person typing in a web browser, but in reality, it's all programmatic.
This guy's so fast.
Yeah. It's not as fast though. Like the API is stupid fast. Like with this, you still get the restriction. Yeah.
I went through 15,000 documents and categorized them for me. I
mean, and the thing you got to be careful with the API too is like, the cost changes dramatically, literally by an order of magnitude, depending on which GPT options you're using. So if you're using like GPT-4 with like high accuracy, the per token cost goes up dramatically. If you're using GPT 3.5 Turbo, the token cost is almost nothing. So so depending on which model you pick for the API, you would be the difference between you being able to do 15,000 calls and 150,000 calls for the same money. So you and some people were having problems with that. Like they were picking like really sophisticated models and burning a lot of tokens for like shit they didn't need to. Like if all you're doing is asking it like simple questions like, we can reformat this into XML or convert this and order this by name. That's really simple stuff that GPT 3.5 Turbo can do. So when you're using GPT-4 for that, you're just burning a bunch of tokens to get a similar response, if not the exact same response. But if you want high accuracy and you want to also use things like integrated web searching and stuff like that, and you want to use plugins, then that starts costing more. Like the per token cost goes up because there's more processing required for them to be able to return you an answer in a quick time. But if you use my method that I've been using, you can only ask it a question, I believe, once every 10 seconds. But then if you set up a proxy server, if you create, it's weird. They support this thing called it's not a SOX 5 proxy. It's a specific type of proxy server. But you set up this proxy server, and for some reason, then it allows you to do 10 queries per second. I don't know why. Yeah. Nobody's ever explained it. It's just on the GitHub project. It's like if you need to do more than one query every 10 seconds, then create this proxy and then have the module not connect to OpenAI, but to connect to the proxy, and then have the proxy connect to OpenAI and log in with your token. And then somehow the proxy, I don't know if it's like sending the commands off to different servers in different places or how it does it. But then I never drop a query. Like even if it comes in like 5 people donate and trigger something, I don't lose anything. It'll process them all and the bot will speak. So, so if you're interested in that, I'll try to send you some information on that if you want to. Yeah, it's just not as fast. It's not as fast, but you'll never run out. I
don't really need fast. It's more just about I'm trying to do this this analytics finish this analytics course, and they need like a final project, and I wanted to do it on sentiment based on what the kids are interested in over the years. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to see like no AI being the top one. You know what I mean? Like it's just like just to see how their tastes in in tech has changed over the years, what they're focused on. Although what I've noticed is a lot of these science fairs, it's based on what they get. They get given different things to look at, right?
Yeah.
So if you got a company goes like, we oil companies want to find out ways of coming up with new ways of helping the planet. All of a sudden, there's a big bump in that kind of stuff because whatever they're pushing that year is what the kids will focus on. So,
I know AI has got to be.
Say.
Yeah, AI's got to be a handful for teachers right now, like for real. Like the amount of stuff that I can do in AI right now, or like plagiarism. Like holy shit, not just plagiarism of books and stuff like that, but like it is so easy to just go grab a project off GitHub and just feed it function by function into ChatGPT and have it completely refactor it.
Well, that's why we're on strike right now, right? I mean, that's the whole strike thing. A big part of that is that they don't want people replaced by AI. I mean, I'm of course evil and sided with the robots and the AI already, but
like if somebody tried running a script through ChatGPT, like take a script for a really well-known public movie, like that somebody has released the script for after the years.
There's a site you can go and have AI create South Park episodes for you.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's
really
crazy.
Suck, though. They're too random and they're not.
They suck right now.
Yeah, they suck right now.
They're only going to get better, right? I mean,
but I'm saying, what if you give it a script like The Godfather? Give it a script like The Godfather, and then say, I don't want you to write something like The Godfather. I want you to refactor The Godfather, change the name of the characters, change the sets, change the circumstances, but keep the overall story, keep the overall flow.
Yeah.
Could it create another movie in its current state that would flow and everything just like The Godfather, but be just different enough that nobody could actually sue you for it?
Which is literally what Hollywood. That's how Hollywood makes movies.
Yeah,
but that's how they make movies already. Like that's literally.
But humans have to do it though, right? Like imagine when you can just feed it into a fucking thing that costs $20 a month and it does the work of an entire writing team for 6 months.
We'll go one step further. So you've got Netflix, who've got access to all of our viewing choices,
right?
And then they say something like, "Oh, you know what? Women are really enjoying this type of show. Why don't we need to create a show that speaks to this audience that also has some of this because they're also into this. We put those together. We got a hit show, right? Perfect. Great.
No,
don't bring a writer in now. Just have AI write it for you.
I guarantee that's why Mattel is thinking about making a bunch of extra toy movies is because they didn't actually understand why Barbie was so fucking popular. Is not because it was Barbie, is because of the message behind it. And that sounds like an AI decision to me. Hey, this movie Barbie was wicked popular. How can we recreate this success? And ChatGPT goes, well, obviously it's because it's Transformers. Toys.
Do it with
toys.
It doesn't make any sense. Well, to me, the Academy Award for Best Film should go to the marketing departments now because the reality is the only way people go and see films is because of the way it's marketed.
And
I mean,
I'm true.
What's all you know about it?
Tip top, man. The Malibu Dreamhouse, Airbnb, like all of the weird collabs that you saw with Barbie stuff.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
I don't even know if it was real or not, but like the headline about pink paint going, like haven't seen a big dip in the global like paint market. Suddenly you can't get this particular shade of pink and stuff. Like. I guarantee that was all marketing stuff. Like it was all.
I'm sure, and a lot of
the cameos were amazing. The cameos, oh my god! When I saw John Cena as a mermaid,
that was.
Oh yeah,
John
I'm sorry.
Cena, you cannot lose. You cannot lose.
You cannot lose with that guy.
I didn't see.
No, I mean it's not ruining the movie. He's not a part of the story at all. But it's just
really
funny because he's just
ruining Barbie for me.
Random mermaid, just random Barbie mermaid shows up and it's John Cena, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
it's great. It is so great.
I haven't seen Barbie yet. I haven't seen Oppenheimer. I haven't seen any of these.
It's a good movie. I haven't seen Oppenheimer.
I was telling you though, I saw Talk to Me.
Oh yeah,
man,
that's check that out. I'm into some spooky stuff.
So good.
You're making me want to watch it.
I went on a weird binge and downloaded a bunch of like scary movies,
totally legal movies that are not of copyright.
Oh yeah, we're talking weird like. I'm sure this probably shouldn't be inside the borders of the United States. No, I'm just kidding.
Free movies.
Whatever. Come get me.
Watching, like,
come and get me.
Movies or something?
Come and get me. No, a Serbian film. No. I'm just kidding.
Get cuties on loop.
but weird, kind of obscure stuff or things that went like direct to DVD, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I come back later, like a couple months. I'm like, why did I download these? Why was I into this? Like all these weird. There's one series called VHS. And there's like three or four different. It's like an anthology kind of thing. It's like a bunch of short films all smooshed together.
I like those.
Great stuff. If you're into like creepy, like I'm in
Black
a mix
Mirror,
of
same thing, also great.
I love Black Mirror.
I gotta watch some of that, more of that. I watched a couple of the first season of Black Mirror. And
honestly, I like every episode.
A couple of great ones. Yeah,
I like some more than others,
some are
way better. Yeah, but I like them all.
Yeah,
this season had a couple of really good ones too. I gotta say,
I'll have to check it out because I did see some blurbs about the gal losing her likeness to the streaming service, and then it like ruins her life because they all think it's actually her.
Salma Hayek plays her on the it's fascinating. That's just fascinating, even just from a discussion standpoint. You know, I mean, look, as I would say, talk to me as well. There's some stuff there. They've created this kind of primal fear around something that doesn't exist, that's never existed, but it feels as old as time itself. Like it's just they're so smart at it.
Yeah.
But the thing about horror, this is my theory on horror, is that I crave horror and I watch it all the time now because I never know what I'm going to get. Whereas everything else, I know what I'm going to get. Everything is just being so.
After a while, you start to pick up on certain stories and plots, and you just know. You don't even know why you know. You just know. Yeah,
he's got a problem with his father. He's got to come to terms with his father. He's got the stuff that they do in every single Hollywood movie. When you start watching horror movies, you're like, I don't know who's going to die or who's the good.
Plus, horror movies move really fast, so you don't really get a lot of time to think.
I think you touched on something there because, like, for me, I think it's an ADHD thing, right? Pattern recognition. That's why I can guess.
Yep.
Like my lady and I are watching this show called Revenge, and I'm like, oh, they focused on this thing for like an extra 2 seconds. That's coming up later. That's gonna happen
back later.
Like I can pick it apart, and I know kind of, oh, that guy's gonna die. Because like
the bad insert of dropping the axe in a fight, you're like, okay, now we know where the axe is coming back. Yeah.
Oh,
hey, have you watched One Piece on Netflix?
Oh yeah, it's kind of
good.
fun.
I love it. It's just a fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's got some dark shit in it too, right? Like the clown.
Yeah.
Well, that manga stuff is like Baz was a fan of the manga, watched all the anime. He's watched something like 500 episodes of that show. So very skeptical when he sat down to watch the real life
episodes.
I didn't like Cowboy Bebop that much. I know I'm a terrible person, but I actually
I never saw the anime for Cowboy Bebop. I liked what they were doing. I liked what they were doing with that live action show. It seemed fun and made me want to go watch the
It was well shot. It was well shot. I just didn't like the stories. Like the stories didn't catch me.
Off, and so I'm like, I don't want to play it. I don't want to watch it.
Create a new one. Create something new.
Yeah.
Don't ruin the past stuff by trying to recreate it now. It was iconic. It's fun to watch the old stuff because the old stuff is like iconic old anime stuff. Like,
some stuff doesn't need live action.
Yeah,
like some stuff works the way that it does because it's a cartoon.
Because it's exactly. I think there's a great story behind the Raka Raka guys who did Talk to Me. They had a deal with some Hollywood studio to do that film, and they walked away because the studio was like started giving notes, and they were like, but it's got to be set in Australia. Like we're from Australia. Like they got to have Australian accents. No, it'd be too hard for Hollywood. Too hard for people to understand that. Like so there's this whole, and they basically walked away from like what sounded like a probably pretty good deal. Now they far better off now.
Yeah.
But still, like, you got to admire the fact that they go like, yeah, you know what? Like the machine doesn't work for us. Like it's not. And I think that's something. That's what I crave when I watch. That's why I subscribe to Shudder. That's why I started getting all these, just like going through watching old horror movies as well, where you just, some of them are just terrible, but there are other ones that are just like, you go like, huh, that's kind of got me thinking about stuff, you know?
I like the so bad it's good aspect of some of them though, like Night of the Living Dead.
That too.
I look, get that damn screwdriver out of my head. You know, it's like, it's a funny moment and like a gruesome movie, but you know, and then you got like Texas Chainsaw Massacre where you're like, oh shit, like that gives you nightmares. You know, that's not serious that's not funny at all. That's just serious all the way through. Or People Under the Stairs, that fucking gave me nightmares when I was a kid. Have you ever seen that movie?
Stuff that I've gone back to look at. Or Don't Look Now, that creepy one with
I think I've seen that.
What's his name? With Sutherland?
Reefer Sutherland?
I think I've seen that.
It was Donald Sutherland. It was creepy.
Or
like
was it
really weird, trippy
Dr. Giggles?
60s,
I think
70s.
was another one that was really weird that messed with me. Dr. Giggles. Did you ever see that one?
No.
Oh, dude, it's about it's about this just crazy doctor that just does all kinds of stupid, crazy shit. He's almost like a serial killer, but he's like a doctor. And there's a scene in that movie. I'm not gonna ruin it, but man, it'll make you cringe and like hold your crotch forever. Like you're gonna be oh god, no, please.
The other thing I like about watching horror that I don't know anything about is every so often you'll stumble upon one that's more of like an art thriller kind of thing. And there's some really good films that fall into that genre. There's one that I watched recently called something like a Good Woman Is Hard to Find. It's got a terrible title, but it's set in an Irish like projects, like the projects, only in Ireland. And it's about this single mom whose husband's being murdered, and no one will take it seriously because they just assume he's a drug dealer because they live at the projects. That's it. And that's the premise. And it's not really a horror. It's kind of like a thriller. Like, yeah, it's kind of like a thriller. But
what makes a movie a horror movie?
Well, there's
a lot
one
of debate
sequence.
on that.
There's one.
Like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out.
Definitely pushes it into horror because it's just the most gruesome thing I think I've.
So is it the gore? Is it like the overall gore that makes it a horror movie, or is it the story has to be a certain?
A good example. People, the people who are like film nerds will say Alien is a horror film. Aliens is an action film.
Yeah.
And I think that is the it illustrates the difference between like a scary movie or a horror film versus not. And what always comes up in my head is the difference between horror and terror, right? Terror is the anticipation of something scary, versus horror is the
visceral response,
the witnessing
seeing
of it, the experiencing the scary thing. And that's where like Alien is a horror film because it's the scariness of the alien. Part of it's terror because you don't see the alien for so long, and that's scary. That's part of what.
What about Saw? Would Saw be terror because it's about you anticipating something happening?
Porn.
I think
basically is.
And the Saw movies are definitely horror, especially
how many are they made
facing it. Like the characters are facing terror, but the audience is horror.
How many Saw movies are there? Like legit, how many Saw movies are there?
10th one coming.
Oh my god!
Spiral
is it the same dude playing Jigsaw too? Like this. Oh my god! That guy's got solid work.
First one, was he? Like he was a puppet in the first one, wasn't he?
No, but the voice. I think he was still the voice.
The voice. Oh yeah, sure.
But,
I know the same dude has been doing Jigsaw forever, and it's like a guy you instantly recognize when you see him. Like he's been in a million things. He's been in Star Trek. He's been Star Trek episodes. He's been in all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
who's he? Who's the guy?
Oh god, I don't know his name. Somebody, I bet you somebody in chat does. He's very creepy, and he's got very creepy eyes, and he always plays kind of like a stoic, kind of quiet character.
His name is
older guy.
Bell.
He's not that old. What's his name?
Tobin Bell. That's the actor.
Tobin Bell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
He's a creepy looking
old man. He was born in 1942.
Yeah. He is old.
1942. Wow. Okay.
He's 80, 81.
He's just got like these beady eyes, and the way he talks, he's kind of just a scary dude. Like when he talks to you, you're like, I don't know if I trust this dude. Like, this guy's gonna murder me. He's definitely got that murdery vibe,
right? You have like body horror, where like things are either coming out of you or like changing your body.
There's some stuff like that, the Brandon Cronenberg stuff and everything.
Yeah, man. I like, and I like you mentioned that horror films are interesting because of they leave you guessing, right? Like it is hard for me unless it's like a tropey sort of horror movie, like you can guess. But I like when they subvert your expectation like that, or they like, oh man, one of my favorites. I don't know if it's this would be a home invasion horror film. It's called You're Next. Great flick from start to finish. I did not see and now that I've seen it, I've seen a couple other movies that have tried to do the same, and like now I'm guessing, right? Like you can figure it out. But like that was a great flick. I saw that first in theaters, and you think it's gonna be because there's all these tropes.
What's it called again?
Dude, wait till you see. I can't wait to hear what you think about
You're Next.
About talking. I can't wait.
I'll have to watch that now because like it seemed to me to be like cheese, like one of those movies like Unfriended, right? Where like the ghost of the kid who was picked on the whole time and then like killed himself is like coming back.
The tropes.
I'm like okay, like that's lame. It leans too heavy on like the Paranormal Activity sort of scariness, where like people are getting dragged into the shadows by something, and that's not fun.
What about Nope? Have you guys seen Nope?
Nope was fun.
Oh, I like Nope.
I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's good.
I wouldn't consider that a horror movie.
Yeah, it's more.
Would you categorize that as just thriller?
Sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, all I've seen is the trailer. It's like they're very careful in the trailer to like just leave you hanging.
Yeah.
Oh, it is funny. Okay, I'll watch that. Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
It's a
gotta
Wayans
say,
Brothers project, isn't it?
have you Jordan Peele, wasn't it? Wasn't Jordan
Yeah,
Peele?
I
It's
thought it
Peele.
was a
Yeah.
So Peele
Um,
production. Yeah.
But
Okay,
and
the Peels.
he also
Terrifier
produced
1
the
and 2.
latest.
That's just gore. That's
Yeah,
just
that's
gore
just crazy,
horror.
yeah. Or like
I
Phantasm.
might throw that under body horror because it's a lot of like, like Hostel, right? It's just gory and
The teenager, I like that. Like I used to watch Phantasm, the Hellraiser movies.
I'm not into that.
I used to like Hellraiser, but the Phantasm ones, they were a little too hokey for me.
It's too much.
Like the freaking orb with the knife sticking out of it,
knife,
like stabbing everybody.
weird.
Yeah, that thing was crazy.
Like I had a very visceral.
Or the Hell Cube. That thing always freaking me out too.
That.
Yeah.
Hostel and Human Centipede are the two movies that actually like got me a physical response. Like I came out of those movies watching those movies like I felt gross.
I've never seen Human Centipede. Oh, was it?
The worst one I have ever seen.
Oh, I got to write this one down.
It's a French movie and it's called L'Intérieur, like inside it's called. It starts off and you're like, hey, this is like, wow, this is creepy. This is cool. And it just goes places and with makeup effects.
Oh, that's pretty new too. 2007.
Holy crap. It is the most offensively violent film I think I've seen.
I feel like I got to watch that just on principle.
Well, I'm not going to say don't
graphic.
watch it, but it is painful to watch this movie. You know what's funny about all this? I'm literally working on. I was thinking about it as a sort of factual TV show, but I think I'm just going to do it online now. Of just analyzing horror, like just taking let's look at this aspect of horror. Let's look at like body horror. Let's look at what is it about eyeballs in horror? What is it about? Yeah,
I love the subgenres of various film types, but horror in particular has a great distinction. Like there's home invasion, there's psychological horror. There's body horror, there's like
folk horror was a new one that I hadn't heard of. That's folk.
Folk horror. Oh yeah, okay.
It's
Midsummer.
Like that creepy. Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff where it's like yeah, that's one of the ones that's got me a lot.
Like the Hills. You could say even wasn't the Hills Have Eyes or something like that?
That's more torture porn again.
I'd say it's more folk. I've never heard of it, but just as a guess, folk horror would be more like, oh, you stumble into this quaint village, and then you're it's actually a bunch of weirdos who are going to eat your face.
They're all witches. And
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. They're all super weirdos, like genetic, like messed up weirdos.
Yeah.
So,
but I love
movie actually gave me the creeps.
What was the one with Nick Cage and the bees? Burning Man, Wicker Man. That'd be another sort of folk.
I've
horror.
never seen that one.
Right?
Okay, then don't watch it and watch the original Burning Man. The 1960s Burning Man. Wicker Man. Sorry, the Wicker Man. It's so freaking good. Like so good. I remember as a kid being freaked out by that. I watched it again recently. I'm like, yeah, it's still completely freaking me out. Like it's
everybody's like writing down these movies we're talking about, and they're all gonna have nightmares tonight.
It's
Annabelle the Nun. Those are good. That's psychological. To me, that's psychological horror.
The first Conjuring was great
slash psychological plus what's the word for like ghosts and stuff? Like supernatural. Oh, paranormal. That's it. Paranormal horror. Yeah.
You know what was also fun that was just
Conjuring.
It was lame. It was kind of lame. Not like it was the effects weren't that great or anything, but because it was a tiny budget. But I really enjoyed it. I guess just because of my sort of obsession with YouTube and stuff. Is one called Deadstream, which is about this asshole streamer.
I saw that. That was one of those ones I got when I was hyper focused. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I thought that was the one that was kind of funny, actually.
But at the same time,
I don't know if they did
really
that on purpose.
Shit in it.
I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it was a good paranormal horror thriller thingy, and that was fun.
I just love the way they established the premise. It was like it's like Barnacules. It's like if you decided to do like for a Halloween event, you're like, I'm gonna lock myself into a haunted house and I'm gonna lock myself in. I'm gonna throw away the key. I can't get out. And he's gonna live stream the whole thing. And it's got this, except he's a lot more cheesier and is a complete asshole. But it's really fun. But because you can sort of see as a YouTube sort of adjacent person, you could see people going with that kind of thing. And so what I liked about it is it set up its rules quite nicely. It then broke them all, but but it was that was a fun one.
Oh, man.
But it's like a real haunted house with real consequences kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a real haunted house, but not like a Hollywood haunted house. It's like just a really gross, broken down old like Blair Witch kind of house.
Does he know it going into it, or is it like he's doing this like as a prank just to get clout and it backfires
kind of worth
on him?
Seeing. Just watch it because I think there's some fun.
He's like trying to redeem himself. He had like a bad cancellation from something that happened on his YouTube channel before.
He got canceled for something,
and he's trying to make a comeback by doing this live stream and stuff. And I think he goes into it not thinking that it is actually haunted, and it turns out it's pretty cool. But
I'm watching the trailer. This looks creepy as shit.
Our beep beeps are broken. Vincent Hogendam just dropped 22 euros.
What, brother?
We got no beeps.
Like real European money.
No, I think. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see if I can figure that out. I think what it is because
Paris the end of October.
When I added David here, hold on, guys. Don't. This might mute you just for a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Now you should be unmuted. Okay, I got you both tied into desktop audio, so now there should be some beep beeps and some dings or something that happens. Hopefully,
beep beeps and dings.
Right. Yeah. When somebody super chats. Hey, Vincent, thank you for the 22 euros. Said the cube or upside down. Oh, you see, he's throwing the cube in there just because who's present. I thought the cube was stupid. The cube was terrible. I hated it.
That terrible actor. It was the. Would you say sci-fi or horror though? I guess there was horror elements.
Why can't it be both? Why can't you have a sci-fi horror film?
Sci-fi horror. I think you absolutely can. That's fun.
Yeah.
Go.
Hey, 2 hours of watching a young David Hewlett run around in his undies is just a good time.
I would say yeah. It's in a similar vein. If you were
younger
forward a little bit, they did a couple movies that were, I think they're called Escape Room. And then Escape Room 2.
Oh yeah, the first one. I didn't see the second Escape Room, but the first one I quite liked.
Cool stuff. Very clever. I liked it. It was good. Good premise. Good traps and stuff. It was cool.
And what I just don't like it when they break their own rules. As long as if you're going to set up a world, stay in it. Yeah, that's all I care about.
Right. I gotta see Hereditary. I've been hearing Hereditary is like tip top scary movie. Like
it's like horrendous. Yeah, it really
like
is.
In a gory sort of way, or because like I'm not into like a lot of blood and guts and stuff. Like I don't mind seeing people getting sliced and whatnot, but it can't be the main drive.
There is no, that's definitely not the main drive for sure. There's a lot of just stuff in it.
It's like if Quentin Tarantino made a horror movie, just blood spraying everywhere.
Oh, you know what's amazing? Oh, watch again, French movie, Coupe. It's
like the car.
It's based on like Coupe, like cut. It's got like it's called like Last Cut of the Dead or something. But there's a Japanese version, an original Japanese version, which was good. Like I watched it, I enjoyed it. It's it's fun. But the French one, just for some reason, is that what it's called? Final Cut?
No. Zombie movie. French remake of a 2017 Japanese film, One Cut of the Dead.
What are they calling it? What are they calling it in America?
Final Cut. French Coupe with an exclamation.
Dude, the premise is freaking genius. It starts off, it is a zombie movie, but it's a zombie movie all shot in one shot. Right.
Oh,
so
cool.
You're like,
no cut.
You're like, really? Is this how we're gonna? So this is the original movie. I can't remember actually in the new one how they did it.
Can we make David a little louder?
Yeah, I just turned him up.
They basically start off with the one shot of this horror movie, and then they show you the making of the horror movie, and all of a sudden you see this other perspective on it. So you're laughing at it from one perspective, and then it flips, and you see how it's done and why things happened in the one you've just seen. It's beautiful. Just freaking beautiful. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I was just killing myself watching that. Although I did watch it at the Fantasia Film Festival, which is the best. We should all just go to the Fantasia Film Festival next year. Just sit down and watch like crazy. It's in Montreal. It is the best film festival in the freaking world, if you ask me. It's just film nerds. You're like lining up for movies. You're like, someone will say like, what about this movie? Someone will say like, oh, I love that one. So great. You get a ticket for that. Like you just spend the whole time watching crazy stuff that sometimes it'll show up somewhere else. But
James Janus called out Children of the Corn. I remember that movie.
Creepy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I remember that's an old one. I remember watching that when I was really young. And that really
did a remake
messed me up.
Good. Yeah. The original one was creepy. That Jeremiah or whatever his name was, that kid.
Yeah.
It was that weird, creepy kid in it.
If you haven't seen People Under the Stairs, though, I think that's one of those ones that's kind of obscure. Like, if you didn't see it right when it came out, it kind of got swept under the rug. That actually, I remember that giving me legit nightmares when I was a kid. Like I was legit scared of watching that movie. I had to wait years before I watched it again. It's literally about this just batshit crazy family that like presents like normal to the community, but all their kids and shit are like stuffed in the walls, and they abuse them and beat them, and they're like, it's crazy. Like they cut their son's tongue out and shit. Like it's really bad. God. But like the outside of the house, like the neighbors are just kind of, they're just weird people that live there, but they present as like somewhat normal. But it's been so long. I haven't seen it in like 20 years. But I remember like some of the shit that happens in that movie, your heart is just racing. You're like, oh my God, get away. Like there's a scene where like dudes like running through the house, like busting holes in the walls and shit, trying to kill one of like the creatures that's in the wall, like one of his kids that's like feral and trying to get away from him and hide from him. It's weird. It's like straight up weird. And strangely relevant with that whole Frankie case going on right now. Where that lady like tied up her kid or whatever in the house and didn't feed him and shit. Oh my God, dude.
Jesus. Oh wait, so was that the YouTuber or whatever it was?
Yeah. The two ladies or whatever that like created a podcast on like
the hard love.
Yeah, like love is something that you manufacture and you create.
Look at the back of my hand, young boy. Yeah.
And it turns out the whole time they were like live streaming, the kids were all like duct taped up in the back in the basement and shit, not being fed like while they were live streaming.
Good Christian
Mormons actually. Mormons.
Go.
Yeah, good Mormons.
I thought there may be a God involved. Yeah.
There's always a God involved, dude.
That's creepy stuff. Yeah. Moist Critical was going on about that. Moist was,
it puts the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again. Silence of the Lambs. There we go. That's a good.
Oh my God, Silence of the Lambs. Oh my God.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So well.
It does.
That Silence of the Lamb is still freaking awesome. Like just
dude, what's the guy's name? The main guy in that?
Hannibal Lecter?
Yeah, the guy who plays Hannibal Lecter. What's the actor's name?
Oh, Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. God, he plays that role so perfectly. Oh my God. The scene in that movie where they're eating the brain, like cooking the brain, like right in front of the dude that they took it from. I was like, are you shitting me? Like when I saw that the first time.
Did you watch the series? The first season?
No, never saw the series. Never saw the series.
Season, certainly the first season. I can't remember how far into the second season I got, but certainly the first season I thought was freaking brilliant. It's an art film. It's like an art. Cool. Oh, Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal.
As Hannibal, yeah.
Like you kind of like him. You're like, I don't think I should like him. He hurts people.
I wish I could remember the name of the series, but apparently there was like a series of these guys that investigate like all the serial killers like over the years.
Oh yeah,
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter, yeah, that's it.
Mindhunter,
yes. It follows like the FBI creating the whole concept of like
exactly.
They played the older cop on
recording them and interviewing them and stuff and getting in their brains.
What are they used to be like? They're serial killers. Just shoot them, fill them with holes, and hang them. And this.
I only watched one episode, and I was like, I wanted to go get the rest of them and watch them because I was like, this is really good.
Creepy stuff. It got canceled though. They only did like 2 years, and then they. Yeah,
there's really only like 2 seasons. God, that sucks because it was so good. Like I don't know if it like fell off later on, but the first episode that I watched, I was like, this is great. Like seeing into the mind of a serial, and the people that play the serial killers, like the people they cast as the serial killers, do such a good job.
Yeah,
I watched a YouTube video where they all trained off of the tapes. Like all the actors, they trained off of the tapes from the original case. So there's a YouTuber who put them side by side with the real cases, like the episode where they did the guy that was killing all the women behind the shopping center or whatever, and he'd leave a thing. He'd like leave a trinket every time.
Zodiac guy, not the Zodiac guy.
Something like that. It wasn't Zodiac Killer. It was God. What was he? He'd leave like cereal boxes or some shit. He was just like this really, really creepy dude. But like when they interview him, he's like very proud to explain what he did and how he felt and why he did it. And he's like a totally like just completely chill and like he's having a regular conversation with you as he's explaining the horrible things he's done. And then they play it side by side with the actual tapes of the real serial killer during the real interview. And it's almost perfectly verbatim down the inflection. And I was like, wow. So they like went through and listened to that over and over and precisely created it.
So could you, if you had the audio tape and you had the video of these things, could you face swap them with an actor?
You could, 100%.
Like, could you recreate
with today's technology?
Could you imagine how freaking creepy that would be?
Like, see actually Jeffrey Dahmer playing Jeffrey Dahmer
talking about
Not only that, but from the tapes, you could.
I haven't been able to do that.
Not only that, you could voice clone them. You could voice clone them because today's technology, you only need about 1,500 spoken words to create a good voice clone. And you can do voice cloning, not just text. Like I've only been doing the stuff that's text to speech, which isn't as good. Obviously, it's not going to give you all the inflections and performance. But there's several online services right now that you can use that will take an audio clip that you send them of you speaking and actually translate that into somebody else's voice perfectly with all the inflections, accents, speaking, everything.
I've seen the songs. I mean, I've seen the Drake stuff and all those.
Yep.
Yeah, some amazing stuff going.
I haven't found. Hey, if anybody in chat knows of any GitHub open source projects that can do the wave to wave voice translation, so like I record an audio clip and I can run it locally through a transformer and get out like somebody else's voice, and I can use a cloned voice to do that. Let me know because one of my big goals, one of my biggest goals is to take Barnabot on my stream and train it with my voice, my own cloned voice that I've cloned of me, and then have it interact with the stream as me. So it's like me and the bot are going back and forth as me. And I thought that would be really cool to do that. So I'm basically like co-hosting with my twin.
And I need Bane. I need Bane so I can have him respond to me when I ask him to do the light.
I'll keep an eye out. If I see a cloned Bane voice, I will 100% snatch it for you.
I'd be all for that. I'll do the voice if I have to. I want to like. I find this what I hate about. We've discussed this before. Where like I think I'm gonna have to go to this open source one because I just want to mess with it. Like if you've got an AI living in your world with you all the time, that's controlling your lights and whatever the hell else and set music and all that kind of stuff. I just think it should be personable. Like you should be able to come up with a way of making it personalizing it better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like responding to you in the voice that you want or making the jokes that you want to make. And I like that. I'm up.
There's a site that I always forget off the top of my head. That's a free site, like completely free to use, where you can go to it and select a voice, like from a famous character of like a video game or a celebrity or a movie. And you just type in text and it will actually read that text back in their voice. And it actually does a better job than any of the voice cloning I've done locally. I don't know what model they're using to do it, but it sounds great. So if I can find that, I'll send it to you. Wait, is it Voicify AI? It's some.ai. I know it's one of the sites that's like it's one of the .ai sites.
Yeah. One of the 50 billion .ai sites that are now in existence.
Here we go.
Like AI companies crypto.
Okay, I found so AI Batman model. Okay, it says you can drop a song here. Our model will extract the acapella for. Wait, what? You can make Batman do acapella? Wait, what? How do I make AI Batman covers?
I think we just lost Jerry for a bit again.
Sorry. I've never seen this one before. So $8 a month or whatever, you get 25 credits. Credits never expire. So, okay. The thing is, I know for a fact that these damn services are all powered by some open source backend I don't know what it is. I gotta find it.
That's my frustration. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's MediaPipe as well. I don't know if MediaPipe is the Google thing they're playing with. I don't know what they're able to do with that, but that was the thing that they did GameFace, the GimpyG's thing.
Yeah.
And that is a developer model now. They have a developer system there. Which I haven't really played with, but it seems to have access to some fairly cool stuff. Like,
I heard that Bard, I haven't tried it yet. I should, because I have access to Bard. I should go give it a try. I heard the Google Bard now, you can feed it an image and it'll describe everything in the image. Like it does like a reverse AI thing where you can basically like take and make an image if you want in Stable Diffusion and then feed it to it and it will actually explain what the image is. So if you were like blind or something, you could actually create AI artwork in Stable Diffusion, give it to Bard, and Bard will describe to you as a blind person what you just created. So it's like a closed loop. And I'm curious I want to try it out and see like how accurate it is, if it's just like car or bus, or if it's like car that's red, approximately 25 feet long at a 45-degree angle with the sun up in the corner. I mean, I want to see how descriptive it is, because in Stable Diffusion, there's a plugin that I have where you can basically upload an image or say describe what this image is, and it takes like fucking forever. It's like 15-20 minutes for one image, and then it'll finally come back and say this is an image of like a truck in front of a tree, and that's like it. And you're like, okay, well, that's not very descriptive. But some of these other ones I've heard are pretty damn descriptive, and the reason why I guess Bard is doing it and OpenAI isn't is because Bard, they're looking for an edge. They're not going to beat OpenAI at GPTs. So this new technology will allow you to eventually go around with like your phone. And if you're a blind person, you can like point it at shit on shelves and it'll tell you about it.
It'll tell you what.
So if you go into if you go into a grocery store or you're looking through a window or something, it can
Apple's doing that, right? Apple's got that on their phones now. They're incorporating it in their phones.
Do they? I didn't know that.
It was one. Well, this is so Lance and I went through their features the other day, this is months ago actually, and it led to the GameFace stuff was because we started playing with Apple that had this beautiful ad that showed you all these amazing things you could do with the accessibility features. And then we tried to set them up, and I was like, dude, I got all my hands and everything, and we are struggling to get this set up. Like it was like really disappointing because it had things like you point the camera at a door, it'll say a red door, and like now of course you could use that, but it interferes with something else you can't have the description thing on if it's also doing whatever else it's doing. So it was a disaster of promises that didn't that horrible thing where most accessibility stuff is like 80%. It's like, what? Pretty good at that. It's like, except try using a mouse 80% of the time. You know what I mean? Like try having a mouse that only clicks like 8 out of 10 times that you click it. It's it's almost unusable, right? So
yeah, I did notice that. Like I downloaded the Game Face thing and installed it and played around with it. I was like, man, this is buggy as fuck. Like I could not really get it to do like what I wanted to do. And the weird thing is it was showing like in the box, like that it was registering my movements. Like it was really reliable at picking up like my eyebrow and everything, but it just wasn't doing the actions. And not
the
reliably.
Actions are the hardest thing. It was great at locking onto your face. The biggest issue I think we've had so far with it is trying to do like the little ticks or whatever necessary to get it to click when you want it to click. It just for some reason, especially with glasses,
I could not get it to click. What is in this picture? I'm trying Bard right now. I just uploaded a picture.
What is in this picture?
What is this?
I uploaded a picture that I did a stable diffusion of AuxxZillary as a redhead. Or are you getting hailed?
I should move. Gentlemen, it's been lovely to talk to you again. I missed you.
Yeah, man, dude, we could have a whole stream just talking about spooky movies.
Honestly, we should just do it one time.
That'd be so much fun.
So my idea was to call it Nightmare Fuel and just have like just talk about. So we get you guys on and we'll talk about.
For me, it's a categorization sort of thing. I love talking about like influences and like, oh well, this is sort of psychological, but with like body horror.
What's happening in the world? What's happening in the world that inspired
dude?
This, like
dude,
this
Slither's
stuff?
a great one.
So cool.
Vaguely comedy, but a little spooky. Stuff.
You create it and we will be there. We will happily come and hang out with you on your own territory.
With creepy masks on your face.
Hey, before you leave really quick, David. Before you leave, I want to tell you the results of this because it's actually pretty shockingly good and you might want to pursue this now. I uploaded the picture of the AI diffusion of a redheaded person looking at the camera. And I told Bard, I said, all I put in the prompt is I gave it the image and I said, what is in this image? That's it. And it replied back like very quickly and said, the image you sent me shows a man with a red beard and a mustache standing next to a brick wall. He is wearing a dark green jacket and a black shirt. He has a friendly expression on his face and he is looking directly into the camera. And that is absolutely 100% accurate for the picture I uploaded. I did not expect that.
Imagine how that opens the internet up to people without sight. I mean, that's amazing.
Right? Like, oh my God, I got to try this one more time. I'm going to put in AuxxZillary holding the axe. Remember when I was doing all the, so I'm going to say, what is the man in this picture doing? Because he's like, he's looking into the camera and he's kind of like muscles all ripped and he's holding an axe like this. I'm curious. Okay. It says, oh, I can't process that file. It couldn't do it. Hold on. I think, here, let me do it again. Where is it? Let me grab a different one here. Here, I'll say, what is in this photo? Oh, thank you, hon. Sorry about that. No, I appreciate it hugely. Thank you.
Yeah,
I got coffee. It said, sorry, I can't help with images of people yet. Okay, this is typical Google experience. I upload a picture of a person, and I say, what is in this image? It's like, oh, it's a man with red beard, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then I send another picture of another thing. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't help with images of people yet. Like, you just described the people. All right, well, go ahead and get out of here. If I can figure out how to get this to work better, I'll send it to you so you can show it to Gimpy.
All the best to everyone.
All right, peace out.
I'm hoping to see more of you, but God knows. Who knows?
Hey, whenever time allows, man.
I will take what I can get when I can.
We're lucky to have you.
All right.
Damn it.
All right, take it easy.
Later.
It actually looks like Bard got heavily updated. I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, they recently did a big push, and I don't know if it's like fully up, like they've fully released the update or whatever, but they're talking about better integration with like Google services and things like that.
Yeah, everything is different now. Like I logged on the site, it looks completely different. There's a whole bunch of new buttons. Here it is. Okay, so here's the updates. As of 9/19/2023, so this is really new. This is like as of 4 days ago. It says, introducing Bard's most capable model yet. It said, your feedback has accelerated Bard's ability to move intuitive, imaginative, and responsive than ever before. Whenever you want to collaborate on something playful and creative, start in one language and continue in up to 40 other languages. Ask for in-depth coding assistance, or it sucked at coding before, so I'll put that to the test. Or learn about new topics from different points of views. Bard can help you explore possibilities of greater quality and accuracy. It says Bard can now access helpful information from Google apps and services. So it can access that's cool to access your email. I'm going to try that and be like, hey, go through my email and find all the emails about this. That would be fantastic.
Right.
It says collaborate with Bard on your content in Gmail, Google Drive, or Docs. That's awesome. It says double check Bard's response with Google It V2. So with the power of Google search and the G button, you can help double check Bard's AI generated response starting in English with a statement that can be evaluated. You'll see it highlighted in Bard's response, and you can click it to learn more about the statement. So kind of like what Bing's doing, where, it shows it highlighted. You can click on it to see where it got that information from to see if it's wrong or not.
Yeah.
Let's hear build off of conversation shared with you. So now I can do the whole conversational thing and build on a conversation. More features will be available in other supported languages soon. You can upload images with Google Lens, get Google search images in your response, and modify Bard's response to be simpler, longer, shorter, or more professional and more casual in all supported languages. Wow, this is a major overhaul. So does that mean now I can ask it to create images too? Just like,
maybe
like Bing? I'm going to try that. Here, I'm going to say, draw me a picture of a guy holding an axe trying to break down a door. Let's see if this gives me a better response than Bing, where it's like, oh, you said axe. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't create images yet, so I'm not able to help you with that. You literally just said in the change list you could create images.
That's why I said, I don't think they've pushed it all out yet.
Yeah, it's not quite there. I don't understand why. So if I do new chat, let me try it with a new chat where I upload an image again, because I found that highly weird that I upload an image, it described it absolutely flawlessly, and then every other image I uploaded, it's like, sorry, I can't do people yet. It's like, what are you talking about? You just did it. What is in this picture? Let me try it again. I just started a new chat. Now I put the picture of you shirtless with all your muscles ripped out in your beard, and you're like holding a log or a stick or something. This image has been removed. I cannot process file. Oh, because it probably thinks there's nudity in it because you don't have a shirt on. Okay, let me find one where you're wearing a shirt. Okay, I'll do the one that we did of you where you're like a big fat lumberjack wearing a flannel. What is in this picture? I mean, this would be so great for like people that are blind and vision impaired. Like if they could just snap a picture with their phone, run it through Bard, and it like then talks back to them and say what it is. Yeah. It says it can't help with images of people yet. So it recognizes there's a person in it. I would like to know how in the hell it gave me such a flawless response for the first thing that I fed into it. Now it's saying it can't do what it just did. That's stupid. Like if anybody can explain that to me in chat, please let me know. That is very weird because literally I pasted a picture of a person. And it's like this image shows a man with a red beard and a mustache standing in front of a brick wall. And then you send it another picture. And it's like, oh, sorry, I can't do people. I forgot how to do it in the last 30 seconds. Let me send it a picture of a cartoon version and see if maybe it can't do if it recognizes it as a real person that's refusing to do it because
that's weird.
Because the first image I did was more of like a cartoonish. It was like a stable diffusion generated image. Let me try giving it here's a picture of you floating in space in a spacesuit that looks kind of cartoonish. What is in this picture? Let's see if because I have a feeling that they have just some high level shit that's like, oh, if there's a human in this, don't talk about it because we could get in trouble.
Right.
But if it looks like it's a drawing or a painting, then it's okay. Nope, it says sorry, I can't help with images of people yet, even though it was totally cartoonish.
Weird.
That pissed me off. The first response was so good. So good. Oh my god, I was about ready to sing the praises of Google, and they done fucked it up, man. Boo. Boo. So speaking of AI, what about this Neuralink shenanigans where they've apparently got somebody on board that they're going to start fiddling with their brain? You know anything about that?
What's that?
About Elon and his Neuralinks and his testing on the human beings?
Only just that they're trying to get, or I guess they are starting human trials.
Yeah, so
a bunch of macaques died.
So right here it says, okay, Neuralinks, this is brand new. Okay, as of September 21st, so pretty fairly new. Neuralink's human trials volunteers. So he has volunteers. Like as of right now, they have volunteers for their project. It says they should have serious concerns, says medical experts, about participating in this trial. No shit, Sherlock. On Tuesday, Elon Musk controversial brain-computer interface startup Neuralink announced it received an independent review board's approval to begin a 6-year-long human clinical trial. Neuralink's application for quadriplegic volunteers, partially for those suffering from spinal column injuries and ALS, is now open. Less than a day later, however, a Wired investigation reveals grisly details surrounding the deaths of the monkeys used in the Neuralink experiments, deaths that Elon Musk has denied were directly caused by the implants. Almost simultaneously, a medical ethics organization focused on animal rights filed a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission urging the SEC to investigate Neuralink for alleged efforts to mislead investors about the development history and safety of the device. In Thursday's email to Pop Sci, the committee urged potential Neuralink volunteers to reconsider their applications. Patients should have serious concerns about the safety of the Neuralink device, wrote Ryan Merkley, director of research advocacy for the committee, which was founded in 1985 and has over 17,000 doctor members. There are well-documented reports of companies' employees conducting rushed, sloppy experiments in monkeys and other animals. According to Merkley, the Wired's September 20th report, Neuralink experimented on as many as 12 macaque monkeys, resulting in chronic infections, paralysis, brain swelling, and other adverse effects, eventually requiring euthanasia. The FDA previously denied Neuralink's request to begin human clinical trials, citing concerns regarding the implant's electrodes migrating within the brain, as well as perceived complaints, complications in removing the device without causing permanent brain damage. FDA approval was granted in May of 2023. Elon Musk first acknowledged some Neuralink test monkeys died during a clinical trial on September 10th, but denied their deaths were due to the experimental brain-computer interface implant. He did not offer the causes of death, but instead claimed all the monkeys were chosen for testing were close to death already. I still think that was the dumbest response he could have made. Oh, they were going to die already, so we just sped it up a little bit. What's the big deal? Wired's investigation, based on public records, as well as interviews of former Neuralink employees and others, offered darker and often horrific accounts of the complications allegedly suffered by dozens of rhesus macaques test subjects between 2017 and 2020. In addition to neurological, physiological, and physical issues stemming from the test implants, some implants reportedly malfunctioned purely due to the mechanical installation of titanium plates and the bone screws. In these instances, the cranial openings allegedly often grew infected and were immensely painful to the animals, and some implants became so loose they could easily become dislodged. In this email to Pop Sci, Merkley reiterated the FDA's past concerns regarding the Neuralink prototype's potential electrode migration and removal procedures, and urged Musk's company to shift to developing a non-invasive brain-computer interface where other researchers have already made progress. Because again, this thing literally is sticking little itty bitty human hair sized needles down into your brain tissue. And they're saying that those can wiggle around and move and fuck things up around it. So that's kind of scary.
Oh, I don't know. There are better ways, I think, to go about it than poking little needles into your brain.
I agree.
We've gotten to such a point now that you can wear a thing on your head and like it can, I mean, with some training and of course, and it can like accurately sort of accurately describe what you're thinking about.
True.
Like dream recordings and things like that. Like it's man, yeah. We don't need to be sticking things physically into your brain.
If you have so to play devil's advocate to this, to do physical things to the body, you do have to access the neurons that are responsible for those physical things. But to record, you don't need to be passively pick up the signals coming from the brain. You don't have to.
We've even gotten to a point where like we've stuck a thing in the base of somebody's neck or in the base of their head.
Yep, that was cool.
And now they can walk or literally like in the spine. They like
bypass the brain.
They wired into your fucking spinal column, which is inserting stuff into.
That is true. Jim said you can affect the nerves without physical contact. The nerves, correct, but I'm just saying where they all connect into the brain, having one central location where you can control everything in the body. You have to be in the brain to do that. Like, otherwise, you got to chase all the nerves down.
Yeah, like Jerry was saying, they skip over the broken part and basically just put in like a not a stint, but like they reroute.
It's like a bridge. It's literally a bridge of nerves.
And you guy can walk again, and that's like old. That's old tech. That's like probably 10 years ago now.
And what's crazy about it is that like he has a battery, and it's literally a computer that's like translating his nerve impulses, sending them through the artificial bridge, and then back into his nerves further down past the break where the damage was in the spine. So he feels and walks, but I mean, it doesn't feel like it used to. Like he said, he had to adapt to it, but he can make his legs move. He can feel if somebody's stabbing him in the foot. It's like that's all going through an electronic bridge, like a network. Think of it like a network in your house between two computers.
That's the thing, Adam. That's the thing, Adam Flipowitz. He says they're brain surgeons and scientists working on this that likely know more than we do about communicating with brains. If they could do it without touching the brain, they probably would. They can. Elon Musk is taking a different tack for no other reason than like, I guess, I mean, look, I'll cut him some slack and say, like, just for the exploration of science, right? Like to see if we can, and then what can we do with it? You know, you gotta try stuff. And like, I get science to a degree is just like, hey, let's see if we can do this.
You have to tread carefully when human life is at stake. But if he only tests on people that agree to do it, that are literally going to die anyways, and then we learn something from it, that's different. That's like an edge case. But if he's making these people believe that there is a good chance of success when it's never been done before, and they think they're signing up for something where it's like, oh, there's a really good chance this could work. No, that's not going to happen.
I want to see a success in. I'm going to bring out the animal protection folk, but I want to see a successful test with an animal first.
Well, it has to.
I want to see a monkey sitting on one side of the room playing GTA with his brain on the other side of the room, or what, you know, or something like that, or, you know, or operating a exoskeleton, or drive a Roomba around or something, you know. But
it's like, the risk takers that change the world. It's also the risk takers that blow it up.
In 1983. Can I introduce you to the cough syrup that they made in the 1800s that had morphine and shit in it? Like,
exactly, and codeine and shit, and heroin. Heroin used to be an off-the-shelf product.
NyQuil in general, but I just want to see. They had a monkey operating a game already with a physical implant, because I've seen some where they wear like a helmet thing. They got a thing on there. They put a mesh thing on their head.
They claimed in the demonstration that it was from the actual Neuralink interface, but everything the monkey was doing has already been done with just a non-invasive cranial cap. So it wasn't like they were demonstrating that this thing could do something that you couldn't do with an existing interface.
We've shown time and again that we can either manipulate the mind from the outside or gain data from the brain from the outside. Like there's been a few research things where, again, they put a dome, you know, a little helmet thing or a mesh over your brain. They can suppress your morality with a targeted magnetic field. They can make you not have any sense of right or wrong. They've shown that they can manipulate emotion. They can manipulate your memories. They can rewrite stuff in your brain from the outside. They don't need to go into your brain to fuck around. They just need the right frequency of magnetic field and a beam targeted right at your brain.
And to be fair, we've been able to do all this with literally chemicals too. Like everything you just described has been done with chemicals, brainwashing, confusing people, making them think a good thing's a bad thing, a bad thing's a good thing.
That's part of it. Is like we don't need to go into the skull and start poking holes in your brain matter. Like there's I mean, look, man, they've got fake arms that don't even need to wire into your nerves anymore. Like they can like say you lost your arm like here, right? You got just a little nubbin. It can sense the flexibility of whatever muscle you got left, and it'll operate the arm.
Yeah, the prosthetic shit is awesome, and they can feel now too. Have you seen that?
Straps around your arm, and
have you seen that they can feel now? It's like bidirectional.
Yeah,
I saw that where a lady can like pinch an egg and hold the egg and crack it with two prosthetic arms, and I was like, "How's she doing that?" She's like, "Oh, there's a buzzer on my nerve up here where it's really sensitive, and as I squeeze, it buzzes at different frequencies to tell me how much pressure I'm exerting on the object." Yeah. And so she can grab eggs and delicate objects based on that buzz. She just trains herself, and pretty soon it's second nature, right?
Right. And this is coming from somebody who's kind of interested in the sort of like transhumanism sort of thing.
Oh, me too, definitely. Like I don't want to live in this body for the rest of my life.
Beef up our bodies with like robot arms and shit and things like that. Like I
want a heart that's a mechanical pump that can be rebuilt like every 100 years.
What freaks me out about that though is the Repo, the genetic opera, right?
Yep.
Watch the musical, not the newer one with Jude Law. The newer one with Jude Law is terrible. Watch Repo, the genetic opera, the musical. It's great. It's freaking awesome. But that's what freaks me out is like, okay, so you get your mechanical heart. What happens when you stop making payments? right? They're gonna come and get
Dude,
your fucking
that
mechanical
gives
hard back.
me, yeah, that scares me big time.
And so like that kind of freaks me out, right?
Jim
like,
Jim hit on that in chat too. He's like, we don't need to lie about how they have cracked the massive issues with the immune system. The fact that Tesla charges a fee to use a car that you already own should give us all pause.
Yeah.
Imagine having a Neuralink and it's like your credit card processing fails and they disable your service and you no longer can fucking see or feel or whatever until you renew your credit card. And you're like, and you're in an alley somewhere scared to death. Yeah.
You already hear stories about people's like pacemakers and stuff getting hacked. And
yeah, you know what concerns me? Imagine this scenario. Imagine this, Aux. So you're literally paying for the Neuralink to be online so that you can see and you can hear, and you paid for like the extra acuity, and now you're like, you know what? I can leave my house. This is a great experience. Look, I never could leave my house before because it would be way too dangerous. Now I can. Yeah. What happens when that fucking malfunctions or your payment doesn't clear and it gets turned off when you're in the middle of a fucking freeway crossing the street in Japan? And you're like, fuck, if I didn't have this, I would have been home and I would have been operating within my limits and my safe capabilities. I trusted this device, but then dipshit decided to download a bad firmware that broke it, or they charged me for it. My card didn't clear because of a technicality, or the credit card processor was down and a bunch of people lost service. That happens all the time with just regular services. Imagine if that was like where you were relying on that for your brain.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, so that shit scares me, especially Elon running it. Like, Elon is not the right guy to be doing this.
I mean, he's the current, twisty mustache bad guy, but really is any of them. There's no.
The way I see it is something like this.
Yeah,
something like this has to be developed by a system that's backed by some form of universal healthcare where there are guarantees in place. That if you have that technology, that they're going to do everything in their power to keep that technology flowing completely free of any monetary transfer or any status thing. Like, it needs to be like, you know how you can go to a public hospital and you can get worked on. Like, if you're dying, you can go, they can't refuse you even if you have no credit cards, nothing. It's like, they got to try to do their best to keep you alive. You can't go to a private hospital and you're probably not going to get the best treatment, but they have to, it needs to be something along those lines where it's like, if they're doing something to your care. If they're putting something in your body, it cannot be dependent on you being able to continuously and perpetually pay for it. Like, they can't put a time bomb in you that's like, if you don't pay, you're going to die, because you know what you're going to do is you're going to have people fucking knocking off banks, robbing people's, selling illegal drugs, whatever they have to stay alive, because people will do whatever it takes to live.
Yeah.
And if you put them in that situation, you've created a very dangerous person if you threaten to take that away from them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can take away from people that'll piss them off, but being like, hey, your heart's going to stop working in 3 days. Now you're like, what's that movie Crank or whatever, where the dude's got to like slow down. He's like, now you got a Crank situation every 3 days. It's like, oh, we got 5 people downtown knocking off stores and shooting people just because their heart's going to fail. I can see where
it would just turn around into more of a debt slave kind of thing. Like, oh well, you're gonna indentured servitude in a sense. Like, well, we control your robot heart, so you're gonna have to work in the Tesla factory for 5 years to pay off your robot heart, or you're gonna die.
And to a degree, we do kind of do that already. I mean, to a certain degree, because it's like, if you don't work and you can't afford insurance, then you don't get the best quality of care. And if you have certain illnesses, to have a good quality of life, you have to be able to make enough money to support that quality of life. And it's unfortunate because it's like you didn't ask for that, right? Like, if you're born with a genetic heart defect, that's not something that was like, it's not like you smoked a pack a day and killed your heart, right? It's not like you didn't do that. That was something that you had from birth. And it sucks being in the situation that's like, oh, now I have to find a way to get medical insurance that's 10 times more expensive than anybody else's just so I have the right to live. And those are things I think we need to really work out before we start fucking around with like implanting things in people's brains and artificial hearts that got fucking monthly payment systems attached to them. And Bitcoin crashed, so you got to die now. Like, it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me. Like, and they already do that with medication. I hate how they do that with meds.
Where some of it would be like purely like, quote, cosmetic, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I want a fucking blade in my arm, like, I got to pay cash.
Yeah, and repossess it or whatever if I don't pay for the fucking laser blast function or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't.
Mechanical heart, like, I gotta, like, I don't know, like that kind of stuff, or liver, or because, like, even, man, and that's where lines start getting really fuzzy, because, like, okay, does that extend all the way to then like a full mobile body, or like legs, or well, and then it's I don't know, man. Yeah,
dude, this raises all kinds of scary situations. Like, you're walking through the airport and your flight's running late or whatever, and you get a little pop up in your heads up display or whatever that's like, you need to pay $3 more to get another hour of, offline heart pumping or whatever, because you're not connected to the system. And you're like, you can't pay it and it's not accepting your card because, like, sorry, the credit card processor's down right now. It's like the little clock's counting down. And then it like sticks a little thing out of the side of your body that's like, you need to pump this bulb, until you can get to a place where you can pay to reactivate your heart thing. So you're like running around frantically, like pumping the bulb, and then you get tired, asking strangers, please, can you pump? I'm going to die if you don't pump the bulb. I mean, that would create so much fucking hysteria if we did the same thing with human body parts as we did with cars right now. Like BMW does this shit now too. Did you see that? Like BMW, it's like you buy a car, heated seats, cooled seats, heated and cooled steering wheel. All of those functions are extra add-ons that if you don't pay on, it doesn't work. It's so stupid.
I want somebody to just make a basic car. Basic. Like I want manual windows. I want knobs and buttons for my radio and all that stuff. Like you can have a mix. I know this is a little off topic, but like you can mesh modernity with like some of the retro stuff too. Like I don't need heated seats. I'd rather have. I like the idea of a heated steering wheel. That's cool. But like
it is pretty sweet.
Fine. Like I want. Man, touchscreens in cars suck. I like my knobs and buttons and stuff. Like a screen is fine.
Adam's like, bring back the K car.
Sure, right? Like,
those were awesome, actually.
I'm down with a screen, but I don't want that to control everything, right? Like that's I want knobs and buttons and stuff. Like you can give me feedback on the screen. You can show my CarPlay thing on the screen or whatever. But
dude, how much would a company kill?
Too much stuff.
How much would a company absolutely kill in this day and age by just offering products that give you the functionality, but without any online obligation or without any kind of fee?
Right.
Imagine that, like you said, like a car dealership that literally their selling point is when you go to the car dealership, it's like when you buy our car, as long as you put gasoline and oil in this thing, it will run until it's completely falls apart. Yeah, there's nothing in here that allows something to uplink to it. There's no OnStar. They can't remotely shut it down. They can't fucking issue a firmware that changes how it works. Like this car here is purely any electronics in it are completely closed loop.
Yeah,
and will operate until they physically fail.
Like I keep thinking, like, oh man, because I've been having a lot of car problems lately. Like
that sucks. Dude, with the EV.
No, with the EV.
Oh no!
The front radar on the EV is going whack, but it's getting covered by warranty and stuff. But then,
what is the end result of that? Is it just like a light on the dash, or is it doing funky shit that's scary?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect functionality at all. Well, sort of. I can't use cruise control. I can't use.
Well, that's better than like slamming it down to the ground and like rear-ending people and shit.
Work.
So that's
all of those like extra safety stuff doesn't work.
Yeah,
the lane keeping thing. It still warns you when someone's in your blind spot or somebody's crossing behind you. With the cameras still work. It's the radar. So like I can't do the keep me one car length away kind of stuff. And then my Veloster has rod knock that I think is also going to be covered by warranty because Hyundai tried to cover that up on a bunch of different models. If you have a Hyundai from like 2010 to 2015, run your VIN number to see if you have any recall warranty problems.
That's actually a really good idea because I found out with my car that's like 25 years old or whatever. I looked it up and it was like there was an airbag recall where the airbag could literally blow up and kill you, and it already killed like 2 other people
for no reason.
And I didn't know about it. I didn't know it was. I thought it was an airbag recall for BMW. Yep, they did. Dude, they took out the whole dashboard. It took them 2 days. Yeah. They took out the whole dashboard and interior on like a 20-year-old car and put it all back together just to replace an airbag in the passenger side. I was like, damn.
I've been looking like, hey man, I mean, even if they do give me a new engine and stuff, like maybe I'd turn in my Veloster for something different. I'm thinking maybe a pickup truck, and I'm like, dude, I don't want anything newer than like maybe a 2004 Toyota Tacoma, because like I don't want a bunch of extra electronic shit that I don't understand and I can't reasonably kind of fix on my own. I want it naturally aspirated or as few wonky electrical shit that I have to take I don't want to have to pull out a laptop to fix my car.
Everybody loves Teslas, but if you ask a Tesla owner, like, have you ever had a problem with your car? They will always say no. Yes, they have had a problem with their car. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know a single Tesla owner. I know a lot of Tesla owners. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, actually more of my friends own Teslas than any other car. And every single one of them, that car has been in the shop at least once every 3 to 6 months for something that needs to be replaced or upgraded or something.
When Adam started saying that he was really starting to be disappointed in not just his, but just in Tesla in general, I was
like, and he spent 150 grand for one back in what 2015 or 16 or something.
That's it. That says a lot right there. So,
and my friend Robert, you know Robert, right? Yeah, you know Robert and Cat, right?
Yeah,
so he just bought a Tesla Plaid. Oh. So he's rocking the 1,002 horsepower fucking Tesla. Yeah, he wants me to come out and take it for a drive. That's nuts. Yeah, so I'll be doing a review of that in the not too distant future. So no, they're doing good now. Like he ended up getting like a really good job back at the college, and she's working and running a business that they bought. So they're like killing it now.
Good for them.
But yeah, when he messaged me, he's like, "Hey, you want to come drive my Tesla?" I was like, "Oh, I've driven a million Teslas." He's like, "It's a Plaid." I'm like, "How the fuck did you get a Plaid, dude? Those are like 100 and some odd grand."
That's
but I've never driven one. I've driven a like 700 to 800 horsepower Tesla before. I've never driven 1,000 horsepower Tesla. So I want to feel what the difference is, because it was already ridiculous. Like if you've ever been in Adam's car, it's already like it takes your breath away and you're like, what the fuck's going on? It makes your brain hurt. So I want to see what another like 300 horsepower on top of that does, just for shits and giggles. But the problem is, like, when you buy something like a Tesla, is that car can be completely remotely controlled. Like the steering rack is not directly connected to the steering. The pedals are not directly connected to the braking.
Fly-by-wire stuff these days.
Yeah, well, because the car can literally be summoned and drive to you like an RC car. In order to do that, all of those surfaces have to be controlled by servos and stuff. Right. So when you think about that, it's like you are driving a car that if somebody has access to the Tesla system and they hit enter, they can turn that car off on the freeway.
Didn't some kid early on? Some kid did that. He hacked the Tesla communications center or whatever and drove one back to the dealership or something like that. He drove it away.
I saw another guy who could shut him down. He could shut him down if he was within 300 feet of him. He could literally just kill the motor, and the driver would have to just pull over to the shoulder, not know what the hell happened. Like he could completely just have the thing shut down the motors.
You miss your payment. You wake up one morning, your car's not there.
And when you think about it, it's like you already have to pay for more and more add-ons as they're building these cars and horsepower. Like there was actually an add-on to get horsepower. Like the car already had the capability. You just had to pay for the firmware mod to give you like another 10 or 30% horsepower. That would suck if you had your car and it's like, oh, I didn't pay my $30 this month or whatever, so I don't get 200 more horsepower in my car that can do it. It can do it, but I just don't have access to it anymore.
They literally turn off 2 of your cylinders, so now you have a V6. You know. It's like, and that's what kills me. Is like, it's one thing to do like an ECU upgrade, like you pull the chip out and you put a new chip in, or you reprogram the ECU or something like that. Like that's different. That's not, Honda isn't sending a signal to say, oh, you've got the SI upgrade, so now you can go faster. And when you don't pay, you take it, or it's first owner only, right? Like, oh, I bought this SI from somebody, but like, they don't cover the bonus boost signal, and so now I don't get that, and I have cheese. I don't want none of that. I don't want.
The other thing is humans make errors all the time, so it pisses me off. So let's say you're driving along in your car, you got to go to work. You go get in your Tesla, and the fucking thing won't start and move because somebody reported a car stolen. They went in and accidentally clicked the wrong car, and now it's like, what do? You can't get to work now.
There was that guy who just recently, I want to say earlier this summer, I think it was around here, but I saw news clips of this guy bought a car from a dealer, like a used car, and woke up one day, it's gone because the fucking sheriffs come and took it out of his driveway because it was stolen. Somehow the dealer sold a stolen car. I don't know what that is. I'm sure
that's a big fuck up.
I'm sure something figured that out, but like, the fuck, man, that kind of stuff is just bonkers.
That's job opening level shit right there.
Cybertruck thing. I heard recently, oh man, Cybertrucks expensive, and we're having a hard time building these things because of the body panels or something like that. And I thought the whole point of it being all angular and weird like that was to make it easier to build, because bending metal and stuff was a pain in the ass. And so like, oh, we're making it like a stealth fighter because it's easier just to all these straight angles and stuff. And now they're bitching and moaning about, the production costs because it's all we're doing all this new stuff. And it's like, bro, it's a bunch of sheet metal. Like, how fucking hard is it?
It's heavy gauge stainless steel, which is not as easy to form as the aluminum panels that they use on the.
But they're not trying to form it into anything. It's a bunch of cutouts. It's like,
no, but they got to bend it. They got to brake press all those bends.
I thought the point was to not have to bend anything. I thought that.
And then the problem is they're not building them at enough of a volume because the price is so high that the demand has gone seriously down. Because like 90% of the people that pre-ordered a Cybertruck pulled out and went and got a Rivian.
I bet. Yeah,
like most people that have been buying Rivians and F-150s are pulled out from Cybertruck.
If I had more money, I would totally get, or the Polestar sedan.
Oh, the Polestar sedan is badass.
Oh, so sexy. Weird as heck. I saw one in a Winco parking lot, which was really weird. Like, you got like an $85,000 car sitting here in the Winco parking lot.
Dude, you got to shop thrifty when you're spending 90% of your salary on the ride, right? That's probably living in it.
That is sexy.
The thing is, like,
cars, all these
Teslas have shitty technology too. Like, their technology is, it looks like it's awesome, but it's dated. It's really dated.
I rented one.
The software's not bad. The software's actually some of the better. They have some of the better software.
Dude, it's neat. I liked that the like camera thing would tell you, oh, this is a person, that's a motorcycle, this is a pickup truck, this is a box truck, that's a car. And
they got a really strong GPU
within like inch. Like it tells you the distance. Like, oh, you are 12 inches away, 6 inches, 7. That kind of thing. That was super cool. I like the 360 cameras. That's really nice. That sort of stuff, but even still, like, and I think we were in one of the cheaper ones, like the 3 or whatever the cheap sedan Tesla is, the cheaper one, but even in that one, you could tell some of the build quality wasn't that great.
Tesla's known for shitty build quality. Yeah. Like the final assembly and the fit and finish on them is like one of the lowest ratings, like in the industry.
And I've seen a lot of pictures of that too, like weird body panels not matching up right, or like fabric falling apart and things like that. And
so Adam's asking about why dated compared to who? Everybody. Like literally Tesla. I was telling him that Tesla technology is really dated. What I mean by it's dated is they're using 400-volt electrical systems in these cars still. That is like ancient technology. It is very, very inefficient. And the engines have to be like radically bigger. Like the engine is, what's the name of the shit? I always forget the name of the company that creates the electric car that competes directly with Tesla, the fancy fucking Cloud Edition. It's a butt ugly car too. I don't like the way it looks personally, but it's like very luxurious interior. Somebody in chat will tell you,
Rivian or Polestar or Lucid.
Lucid, thank you, Lucid Motors. So Lucid makes a car. Lucid actually has a car that has more power than the Plaid, but the car weighs more, right? But it has 600 miles range, and it can charge that 600 miles range faster than the Plaid can charge the 320 mile range because it supports an 800-volt charging system. So and the Lucid, the motors, because it's an 800-volt system, the motors are like 90 pounds, these pancake motors, and they can put one on each wheel. They don't have to have the big, massive, like 600-pound freaking motor assembly.
Yeah, the spaceship is 2, one in the front, one in the back.
Yeah, but even yours is an 800-volt system. Hyundai, right?
I guess I don't know.
Is it if it's Hyundai? It's Hyundai uses 800-volt systems.
Nice.
So does Porsche. So does Rivian.
Dude,
so does GM. So does Ford. Everybody uses the Ford Lightning. The Ford Lightning is 400 volt. Okay, I didn't know the Ford Lightning was 400 volt. 350 volt doesn't even sound standard. Like I don't know where the hell they got that system.
I just want a smaller car.
Wait, that can't be right. VW is owned by Porsche. Why the fuck would they have 2 different electrical systems? That doesn't make any sense.
The other way around. By the way, Volkswagen owns Porsche.
Oh, Volkswagen, because Porsche uses an 800-volt system in their Taycan. So I don't know why they would use a 350 in the ID4. Maybe it's maybe just because it's a little shitty car.
But
yeah, they're probably just using old technology.
That's what's kind of killing me is like I want to see more like small, like commuter vehicle. How would you feel if all cars are electric? I mean, that'd be great, but the United States power grid can't handle that.
Yeah, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, the power grid can handle it, no problem. It's already doing it." No, it's not like people think it will.
Especially in the commercial space. I've heard stories of like, hey, we want to build out, we want to buy like 40 of these electric semis, and we're gonna have a fleet station for them or whatever. And it's like the city says, "No, man, you can't do that. You can't." Dude, like 10 of those things was going to pull more power than the entire city. Like we're talking like 8 gigawatt kind of stuff, like hardcore monster. Like the whole city takes 2 megawatts. Or I'm pulling numbers out of the air. Don't quote me on this stuff. But like the difference in power draw is outrageous, and they won't let them build these fleet. I don't know what to call it. A bus. It's like a bus barn, but basically for their electric fleet vehicles and stuff. And it's just because it draws way too much power. I like I like what this company. I think they're called Edison. Or Nikola. I think they're called Edison. They're making these. They're fully electric semis, but they drag along their own diesel generator to help power the it's semi-hybrid kind of, I think. But I was like, well, that seems strange. Like, why would you do that? And it's because the generator just runs all the time, right? And a generator running at peak efficiency is better mileage, essentially, than just a diesel motor, because the diesel engine is up and down, up and down, up and down. You got to rev and go through all the gears and stuff. But the electric generator that the thing drags along with it's like built in with itself, is running at peak efficiency all the time. And so you're actually using less diesel and getting more power, like a diesel electric train. Yeah, I think that's where they got the idea from, was that they're stealing that from the diesel electric trains. Because the generator runs at peak efficiency, or at the best efficiency it can all the time. You're using less diesel and you're getting more electric power out of it than if it were just purely electric or just purely diesel. I'm like, man, that is freaking awesome. That's super brilliant.
Yeah, I'll believe the Cybertruck's 1,000 volts when I actually see one with 1,000 volts, like reviewed by a third party. Because Elon likes to fudge the numbers. Like when the Cybertruck started, it's like, oh, it's gonna be starting at $40,000. It's gonna be based on the Model 3 drivetrain, and now it's based on the semi drivetrain, which also took them like a zillion years to ship, and is a piece of shit, has been breaking down like crazy. I hope it's not based on the semi. I genuinely hope it's not based on the semi, because the semi has been doing fucking horribly. As a matter of fact, do you remember the company Nikola?
They had to recall a bunch of the
tons of them.
Semis.
Yeah, Nikola is kicking their ass now. Nikola has sold way more electric semis. Remember the company that the dude literally got sued and was going to go to jail and everything for lying about the semis? He literally like got out from all that and like restructured the company, built a bunch of semis and sold them. So now he sells electric and liquid hydrogen powered, liquid hydrogen fuel cell semis. And the thing is the problem with the semis though, and they both have the problem, both Tesla semis and this, is to charge one of these semis takes an entire day. And it takes an entire like supercharger network to do it. So if you have like 8 semis, you basically, the amount of power that you need on site just to charge 8 semis every day, which 8 semis isn't a lot, right? Like if you're doing local deliveries and shit for like Pepsi Cola, it's not enough. And they can't get enough power. So unless they can generate power on site to charge their fleet, there's no fucking way they're going to be able to do it. Like they'd have to run a main transmission line into their business to like charge their vehicles.
You'd have your own power plant just for charging your semis and stuff. And that's the thing, is like that's where the trouble comes in, is like we don't have the power generation, the infrastructure to handle, even if like there were suddenly like 1 million more electric vehicles for everybody, it just would freak out. Couldn't do it.
Thank you for the 200 Danish Kooners.
Oh,
Mr. Michael
man,
Jensen.
I'm not hearing
like the Kroners. Yeah, I think something's fucked up on Stream Elements end today.
It's not a big deal. We're almost figured out. We're near the end anyway.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Nuclear power is the way to go.
Yeah, no, Nikola's semis look like real semis too. They're not trying to look like spaceships like the Tesla.
Right.
And but the thing is, so if the Cybertruck is now based on the semis drivetrain and not on the Model 3 drivetrain like it was supposed to be, that means it's going to be that much heavier, because the drivetrain for the semi is fucking huge and super duper heavy. So that's going to be like a 6,000 or 8,000 pound truck by the time they're done with the damn thing. But my problem is look, where are they? Where they were supposed to ship like years and years and years and years ago, and all they have is one test mule that every once in a while gets spotted out on the streets, and nobody can look closely at it. They don't let anybody like get up and look at the motors closely and stuff.
Punching out 3mm stainless steel is so difficult. It's so hard. I didn't realize, even though I was saying that we made this design because it would be easier to build.
Yep.
Now it's just so.
Oh, and have you seen the interior? Have you seen the interior on the test mule? It doesn't look anything like what Elon promised. Like it literally looks nothing like when he's like, well, we're going to create the truck. It's going to have just as a crazy interior as it does on the outside. Nope.
It's just
the interior looks way more basic and way more like it's, a cheap Model 3. You can tell that they had to build it to like the bottom dollar because it costs so much to create the stainless steel body.
It's silly. It's
not bulletproof. The glass. Oh, and they were going to do bulletproof glass. Remember, everybody thinks they're getting. Nope, you're not getting bulletproof glass. They're not. You're shipping with the glass from the demo.
There's a reason that the glass in cars breaks the way that it does. Like, you're gonna die. in that car. Like you're gonna get trapped. People are gonna get trapped in that car, and they're gonna die.
Yeah, imagine not being able to kick out the window because it can like take a freaking 12-gauge blast or something. That would not be good.
Just like the thing can sink, you're not getting out. What if you do crash and like it crumples in just the right way, you can't get your door open, you know, and then the thing explodes because it's a freaking lithium battery. You're gonna burn up to die. You're just gonna die. I don't understand. Like I think it's really.
That's one thing I do like about the Tesla S though. The Tesla S does float like a boat, which is kind of cool.
And they have like the biohazard mode or whatever that like
locks that is pretty cool
and all that stuff. Like that's pretty cool. But like if I need to escape, I need to be able to escape. Like holy cow, it's just killing me. It's super weird.
Yeah, dude. Imagine that. Like not. And they can't even get you out. Like the rescuers come to get you out, and like their shit can't even cut through like the panels and stuff because it had to be bulletproof. So now they need all new equipment to like respond to a Tesla truck crash.
No, it's like to float too. We'll see. I mean,
the truck that I think is the best,
but man, it's just crazy.
The Rivian is too damn expensive. The Ford F-150 is quite frankly too expensive too. But if the Ford F-150 was cheaper, I think the Ford F-150 would be like the perfect vehicle to get. Because that thing has like an amazing set of features. One, it looks like a regular truck. So everybody just, it works like a regular truck, same capacity as a regular truck. Really good range too. I think you can get one that's like a 500-mile range now with like a damn near 200 kilowatt battery pack or something like that. I know it's got pretty good range. Really good power, really good pickup acceleration, really good towing capacity. But the cool thing is you can plug it into your house and it'll power your house for a week during a power outage.
Wow. Yeah.
Every car should have that. Like every Tesla should have that too. And I don't know why they don't do that because all you need to do that is just put a high power AC inverter. That's it. Hooking a high powered AC inverter to the battery pack to convert the 400, just like with solar, convert the 400 into 110 AC and rectify it and put it back into the house. That would be so cool to be able to just plug your car into charge. And the cool thing is you don't even plug something different into it. Like you plug it into charge. So you get home, you plug your F-150 into charge, and then if the power goes out, it acts like a UPS. It literally, when the power goes out, the truck just immediately swaps around the electron flow, and now the electrons are flowing back into your panel and feeding the rest of the house. And I was like, that is the coolest shit ever. So like if you're in the middle of the night and you're half asleep, you don't wake up freezing because your heater turned off or whatever. It's like your car just automatically kicks into mode and starts feeding power back to run your house. And I was like, that's really cool. And you can even put a thing in there to say, stop providing power at a certain mileage so you don't get stranded. You can say, you can drain the battery down to like 20 miles so you can still get it to a charging place or get to where you need to in an emergency. Yeah. But I was like, dude, that is a great feature. Put that in every single EV. Seriously. Like, could you imagine? Because it's basically a giant Tesla Powerwall in your car. And it's like, you could use that as a Powerwall. I love it.
That'd be rad if I could power the house.
Imagine if you had two of those.
The car. Yeah.
Imagine if you had a family where you had two. You had like a car and you had a truck that could both do that. And like you drive home from work, you plug into your charger, or better yet, you have one of those cool mats or whatever where you pull up and it's got the. They had it for the Chevy Volt. Like you don't see it on production cars, but there's an aftermarket company, maybe because they patented it, they can't use it. But you lay a mat in your driveway and you plug that into the charger. And then when your car pulls over the mat, it basically has these two things that drop down when it detects the mat and make physical contact with the electrodes on the mat, and then it feeds power. But as soon as the electrodes break contact and the car rolls off of it, it de-electrifies the mat so nothing gets shocked or electrocuted. And that way you have a direct contact, so you're not losing a bunch of power through what do they call that when it's like wireless charging, right? So you don't lose all that energy. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep, induction. So I was like, dude, how cool would it be? You pull up with your cars, they automatically start charging without you doing anything. The car will even navigate itself onto the mat. You basically just, when it detects it's close to the mat, you let go like a Roomba, but it just drives onto it. You go into your car, you go into your house, you're sitting there, the power goes out, right? Yep. The power, both cars start just like feeding power back into the panel and running all your appliances, keeping your whole house going for like 2 weeks off your vehicles. And then if you got to drive somewhere, you grab one of the vehicles and you just take off and the other vehicle still sustains the house. So unless both vehicles are gone, you have full power for the house. I think that is that would make it worth paying extra for the car, because to put in a Powerwall is like what, 20, 30 grand installed. Like, if you buy a car with that capability, you can basically say 30 grand of that is giving you the same functionality basically as a Powerwall. So now the vehicle's technically $30,000 cheaper if you want to look at it that way. Low efficiency though, cat sleeping under car, fried cat. Well, no, because once the electrodes make contact and it starts sending the power takes the least path of resistance, and there's no way a living creature would be the least path of resistance.
Yeah.
And then before it breaks the electrodes, it tells it to stop sending power.
Electric lines.
Exactly. No, they designed this thing really, really well so that it doesn't like fry the neighbor cats and burn squirrels and shit. So there's like a whole dance that it does where it's like you pull up, and to install it was actually pretty easy too. On the Chevy Volt, it was literally you pulled out 4 bolts under the car for the cross member, and you just bolted on this thing that had these 2 little servo actuated arms that just dropped down. That was it. And then when you go get in the car to drive off to stop it charging, it automatically, when you put it in reverse to back up or whatever, it automatically just lifts up the electrodes and shuts the mat off. But it turns it on and shuts it down only when it has contacts with the electrodes. If it doesn't have contact with the electrodes, it shuts down all the energy flowing through the pad. So if anybody bridges the circuit, it won't do anything.
Ooh.
So it's a really clever design. And it was like, I want to say it was like $5,000 because the company wanted to send it to me to review on YouTube, and I never got around to it. Because they kept messaging me. They're like, hey, yeah, we've got this thing that, it's a bolt on, take you like, an hour, or you can have a dealership do it. And they're like, yeah, you just put a mat in your driveway. Like you literally just lay down this mat. It looks like a rubber mat with like 2 electrodes on it. And you just plug it into the wall. I think it was for the Volt. It was just 110 though. I didn't have the 220 charger. So you plug it into 110 or whatever. And yeah, you just pull the car up, and I don't remember if you had to push a button on a remote or it sensed it. I want to say it sensed it. Like you just drove over the mat, and when it sensed it, it would like make a noise with a little thing that you had in the cabin, and then it would drop down the electrodes and start charging. But I was like, that's great. They should put that on every fucking car.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's amazing. Let's see what else we have. Oh, we had the let's see here, open source future. The reason I put that in there, just talking about that, is just because the general AI theft that we see going on like left and right now with companies. Right. I'm just getting super worried about that, because not just in 3D printing either. It's happening across like multiple different technologies. And if you get an unfair advantage, what does your competition do? Like, what do you do? What does your competition do when you're literally taking everything they make and then just adding it to your own and then building on top of it, but not giving what you make back to them? Does that seem fair? Like legal aside, does that seem fair to you?
Not as presented, I guess. Like,
no,
I mean, isn't that what Streamlabs is doing?
Yeah,
has done,
that's right? Exactly what Streamlabs has done.
They took an open source project, literally open broadcast software, that's OBS, added their own little doodads and widgets and whatnot, and then closed it.
Yep, right? And their own doodads and widgets ended up being other separate projects, other open source projects that they basically just brought them together and plugged into each other.
That's a violation of the open source rules, right?
It is, and they got kind of called on it, but nobody legally sued them.
Well, and I'm sure they've tweaked it enough to where they're not.
They're still in 100% violation.
It's just
to this day they still haven't been held accountable.
Yeah, that's not.
It's so stupid.
That's not okay. I mean,
but let me give you an example that's gotten me in trouble. So this is the example that's gotten me in trouble and has led to a lot of my the drama and pain that I've been going through over the last several months. Is a company called Bamboo that creates 3D printers.
I've seen some back and forth.
They're blowing up the market. They're taking over the world. Everybody's like, oh, best 3D printer ever made. The price point is perfect.
Started printing overnight a couple weeks back.
Not just and they just stopped. Like every print in the world just stopped because they were talking to the server when they said that they were talking to the servers.
There was some weirdness. Yeah,
like I think the server crashed. It couldn't report home, and so it stopped printing. So everybody woke up in the morning, all their prints stopped around the world, and they're like, wait a second. Why is the printer even communicating to the cloud right now? Because we already sliced the model and sent it to it. Like, why would the printer need permission from the server to print?
Yeah, right.
Like nothing should stop the print. So everybody was it really caused a huge uproar, but then they basically played it off. Oh, it's just a bug. Oh, this will never happen. This wasn't supposed to happen. Blah, 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 blah. But there's no way to confirm that because they won't release any of their source code and they won't allow a third party to analyze it to put anybody's mind at rest. So here's how the story goes. Bamboo basically pops up out of nowhere. It's some guys from DJI that basically defected from drone manufacturing into 3D printing. They create a 3D printer and their claim is in this tiny amount of time that they were actually like developing a 3D printer. I want to say it was somewhere around a year or two. Their claim is not only did they create a ground up hardware platform with all this great functionality or whatever, which is all stuff that's public, by the way, like they're using a Core XY design, their print head geometry, very little about their design is unique to them. It's quite literally just cobbled together from everything that's open source hardware designs.
I mean, that's like a hard thing to get unique. That's like, I think at one point Samsung and iPhone were battling over the the
square thing. No,
right?
I'm not beating them up over this. I'm not beating them up over this.
How better of an efficient form factor can you get? Like how print heads and all that stuff. That's like common. That ought to be like common law or whatever. Like there isn't a better way to do it.
To be clear, I don't have a problem with them doing that because
the physical part is
because they're not saying they stole that. So they're not saying that they invented Core XY. Like they're using Core XY. So again, they're within GPL because they're like, listen, this is open source. We're saying that we're using it openly, right? And we've added some of our own doodads, but we're not going to tell you how we did the secret sauce on top of it. Even though they're modifying a design that already exists, GPL would technically mean that anything that they built off of that platform should also be a part of that platform and be public. But that aside, that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is the software side.
Yeah.
To create the two firmwares that we have today that work together, which is Marlin, or I should say software and firmware. So Marlin and Clipper. These are the two pieces of software you commonly see throughout almost every 3D printer in the entire industry, commercial, open source, DIY, doesn't matter. They all use these firmwares. And the reason that they use these firmwares is because it's literally taken like 15 or 20 years of hard development, tuning, thousands of people in these open source projects contributing code, testing code, finding bugs. It is taking an astronomical amount of time to take a very simple hardware design like a 3D printer and do all this crazy math shit to make it print something precisely and faster.
Okay.
So they've gotten that down. They've got that on lockdown where it's just it works fantastic after many, many years of tuning. Now you have Bamboo come out of everywhere and they're like, we didn't use Clipper and we didn't use Marlin like everybody else. We created a firmware from the ground up ourselves without using anything from those other firmwares. We 100% created our own bespoke firmware in a period of time where that would literally be impossible to begin with. When you look at how long it took to develop Marlin and Clipper. And then the other thing that's really suspicious about it is they have a lot of networking bugs. Like they keep hitting all these networking bugs, but the networking bugs and encryption and security, it all seems to happen just in the shit that they added on that's not in Clipper and Marlin. So if they wrote the firmware from the ground up, wouldn't that firmware be just as buggy and fucked up as all their other code they built on top of it since they wrote the whole thing? Why is it that the foundation of their printer, 90% of the functionality that's shared with the Clipper and Marlin and everything, why does that all work flawlessly and give exact similar results to what you get with those firmware? There's no fucking way. Even if they wrote the thing from the ground up, there's no way they did it without looking at the math and the algorithms in the other thing and replicating it.
Right.
In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I can't prove it though.
Especially with math stuff. There's
exactly.
There's usually more than one way to get to the destination, right? There's like, I mean, you will eventually come to the best way.
Yep.
Like the most efficient, and especially in terms of programming and things like that, there's always room for efficiency in whether it's memory management or code execution or whatever. There's always optimizations to be made in code and math and things like that. But like, if some parts work great and other parts don't, that's a little sussy.
But here's the thing. They claim that they created this thing like from scratch. Yet the code that just works flawlessly, like the Marlin and Clipper functionality, works absolutely without any fucking problems. Yeah. But all the code that they added on, all the other little pieces that they claim that they also created from scratch, the same team did, that shit's all buggy and doing stuff that's already been long resolved for years in the other code. So why didn't they know to do that when they added the new code? They did if they did it all at the same time over a year with the same dev team. I call bullshit. They will not let a third party review the code. They will not agree to allow a third party company that their entire job is to sign NDAs and compare code and look for similarities for legal purposes, right?
Yeah, that's sketchy.
That's suspect to me.
Because like,
here's the other thing.
It's going to be something where the reviewers just come back and say, "Yep, this is all original code." Like we don't have to say anything more than that. It's just a yes or no. And yeah, that's.
I didn't say Marlin is perfect. I'm saying that after all these years, Marlin has come an insane distance, and look how much development power and testing was behind it. And look at where Bamboo is. Like it's doing the exact same thing, and it's expressing the exact same bugs that exist. If they created it from the ground up using their own theories, their own algorithms, because there's a million different ways to do it. This isn't like a one-trick pony. Like throughout the whole time, they've used a million different algorithms to try to get it right.
There's got to be a million different ways that you can move the print head around. And
like do an acceleration, deceleration, inverse kinematics. Yeah, it's all. So I don't believe, me personally, I do not believe that this small Chinese company that came out of nowhere was able to create a ground up firmware and create a hardware design printer like this in the period of time they did and sell it for the price that they can sell it for. Because even other Chinese printer manufacturers, they're even undercutting them by a shit ton. And you're like, well, the only difference between all these companies is that these other companies are sharing their firmwares, like the modifications that they do to Marlin and Clipper. They're sharing those and forking the projects or contributing to the primary project, and everybody benefits. Like, for instance, Prusa. This is something that kind of pissed me off, is Prusa creates a certain type of printer. It's a bed slinger, and they've sold it for a long time, and they open source their code for like how it works. The firmware is open source, the slicer's open source. They did all this just like they've always have, right? And they give this out to the community, and then Bamboo creates basically a printer that's very similar to the printer they created. They put it at the exact same price point, but they haven't contributed any code to the project or anything, and it has basically similar functionality, including the linear acceleration shit or whatever they do. What is it called? Motion input shaping. And so you're like, wait a second. So all the work that was done by this company, you basically copied that. But even if you wrote the code, you still took that, copied that design, copied that firmware competition. You already stole all the shit and put it into your slicer. The slicer is the only thing they open source, and it's obvious that from the slicer they open source, it's all Cura and Slicer and Prusa Slicer. Those are the three projects that their slicer pulls from. So they've effectively not created anything. Now they can sell this printer at the same price point that Prusa does, but without having any R&D costs, because they got all of the hard shit for free from their competitor. So that's what I don't like about this is, in GPL, everybody's supposed to contribute back, or at least if you use it, you credit the people, and then you still have to sell at a price point as everybody else, because everybody else using the firmware, they're not offering anything special because they're just using the default firmware, and everybody can do that, right? But Bamboo is like, oh, we didn't use anybody else's shit, and we're like the one printer company in the world that literally started from the ground up and recreated what like 15 years of shit did. What are you looking at? What are you doing?
No, I'm just doesn't
make
sense. Like, no,
it doesn't add up,
especially
to
if you're not showing,
and they won't prove it. Yeah, they won't prove it.
Like, it's one thing to say that, and then like, well, look at all these live streams I did while I was coding, like making a game or something, right? It's like there's plenty of open source frameworks and stuff like Shattered Pixel, or was it Pixel Dungeon? The guy who made that originally like released the entire game source code. You can fork it and create your own thing and make money off of it, and optimize, do whatever you want with it. He's like, he made his piece and he's good, and and there's a million different versions of Pixel Dungeon now. But they all like reference back to the main one. Hey, this is a fork of Pixel Dungeon and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Where was I going with that? Oh, but they show the work, right? You show the work. Yeah, you show the work. You say you attribute, right? Attribution is the main GPL thing. Is like, hey, yeah, we're making our cool thing, but it's based off of what this other guy did. Yeah, and you're supposed to admit to that. You're supposed to put that out there.
And it says they don't even use stepper drivers. They're built into their motors. They use a stepper motor that they develop. So they have an in-house stepper motor, but it still has the driver built into it. Like, they're not just writing code to command a blind wheel. They're still tracking its steps. You have to. You wouldn't be able to create a 3D printer using a motor that can't track steps without using an optical encoder and a lot of extra bullshit. Like, that would even be more complicated. They've tried to do that, where they take like and keep in mind, DJI focused on controlling motors that were not stepper motors, right? Like, they were doing drone shit where they were controlling the speed of like brushless high speed motors. They weren't operating these things off of stepper motors.
Drivers and controller. He's not talking about stepper motors. I don't know. That's beyond me. I have no comment.
Yeah, I don't get what he's getting at here. So wait, driver is in controller. I'm not talking about stepper motors. But he said they have learned how to control motors at DJI, and they don't need PMS stepper drivers.
You could. I mean, just thinking about it from like, okay, if I were going to try and make a 3D printer using like, say, drone motors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that it's, you got to have an X and a Y to move the print head around.
Correct.
If you knew the parameters of the like, okay, so you got like a rubber band, right? But on for your X and your Y that moves the head around. If you knew how big the rubber band is, you could potentially say, well, just run the motor for a blip of a second, or in percentages and stuff. Like, you could, I feel like I'm right on the cusp, but my math knowledge isn't that good. So like, you could, but again, I don't know what a stepper motor, because like, I guess one step is like a millimeter or something, right? Like
so think of a stepper motor. Yeah. So think of a stepper motor where it's like, it cogs, where each magnetic polarity is another step. and it knows where it's at based on the power inputs.
Like you don't have clicks forward and
yeah, exactly
to the left.
Yeah, and if it can't move, it'll continue to try to move until it gets into that position. Like it wants to gravitate to the position or the step that you want it to. Okay. Whereas to do something similar with a regular motor or a servo, you would need something like an optical encoder where you're basically saying motor turn, and then the optical encoder tells you when to stop it, and then it calculates an acceleration and all that so that it can figure out backlash and how to get to a very precise point. So both things can do it, but the stepper motor is more efficient at getting to the exact position that you want it to, that you command it to do, and it's super high torque. So stepper motors are like perfect for 3D printers because you're basically saying move this belt to this point, but they don't accelerate super quick. Like servos can accelerate a shitload quicker. Like if you're trying to go fast, a servo is a better choice. But then you have to start doing stuff, consider things like optical encoders and a lot of extra code to control that motor to know that where it's stopping and where it's going, it's not overshooting and having to come back. Because stepper motors, you don't have that problem. You don't have a bunch of backlash.
However, you know the distance of each step. Or
right. And I've seen 3D printers that use just regular off-the-shelf brushless motors, like from a drone, and it was like amazing, but the print quality sucked ass. No matter how much they accounted for the backlash using optical encoders, and even though it had more steps than the actual stepper that they could detect because of the optical encoder, which is basically just a laser shining through slots on a wheel, they still could not get it to print nearly as good and consistent as a 3D printer with stepper motors. So that's why most 3D printers use stepper motors. A couple of them use servos, you know. But as far as I know, the X1, as far as I know, they're using a custom stepper, but it's still a stepper. And they're loud. And if it was a servo, it wouldn't be nearly as loud. Like steppers are known for being loud. Like they're not quiet motors. So and I know that it actually puts out a fair amount of noise. So I'd be shocked if they're not using a stepper motor. Let's see, you're waiting for the new printer to come out with linear motors that don't use belts or pulleys. I mean, honestly, that's the best way to do it because then you don't have any backlash at all in the system. Like if everything is a solid screw going with like really tight tolerances or whatever, then you can get like insanely precise prints. But then the problem you deal with is how do you move everything quickly when you have all that extra weight in the system? So like when you want to go really, really fast, like if you're using screw drives and stuff like that, you're moving so much more mass that you need a stronger motor to both start it and stop it from moving, right? But the cool thing is you can, right? With a belt, if you're moving something that's like 10 pounds and just bring it to a stop, it could break the belt, right? But when you're talking about like, you know, a stainless steel screw that's like really tight tolerances that's greased, you know, you could haul ass and just slam on the brakes and it's not going to break anything.
Like, I just had this picture in my head of like, why couldn't there be two rods that like kind of hang out above the print head? And I guess it could be screws, right? That it's just got like threads. And then it just goes.
Yep, they have printers like that.
Yeah, okay.
They're just not very fast. That's the only reason people the weight, the weight and the speed are the limiting factors there. Magnetic. The belt printers move the fast.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what's he talking about? So waiting for new printer to come out, linear motors that don't use belts or pulleys, not screw drive. Its position is magnetic. Oh wait, are you talking about like a linear actuator that acts like a stepper motor?
Well, I mean, a similar sort of.
I haven't even seen that technology.
I think the setup would be similar to what I had in my brain.
Interesting.
Like it could just be two like steel rods that you know that the thing kind of rides along.
Yep.
And it.
So Bradley said planetary screw systems can move fast and are reliable, actually last longer. They require a lot more torque to move at those speeds. And depending on the pitch of it, you're trading precision for speed.
And you could use magnetic induction to heat the tip of the print head to melt the plastic.
That would actually be pretty cool. Wow. Not having to run a thermistor anymore, like a physical thing in contact with the print head. That'd be pretty neat. I mean, they do it already for cooking, right? Like they already have induction cooktops, so I could, just induct. Yeah. That would actually be kind of cool to have like an induction heater. Yeah. Because then all the heat's forming in the block instead of outside of the block and penetrating into it. You'd be forming it equally throughout the block.
I don't know how they heat the print heads on these things as it is, but like,
I mean, it wouldn't be super efficient, but honestly, you're not using a lot of power to heat that little thing, so the efficiency loss would be not that big of a deal.
Efficient. It wouldn't be efficient. How? Like, I mean,
because like induction cooktops use about 2 to 3 times as much power.
It's like so you need the high voltage to get the induction right.
when you're creating that huge magnetic field, it's what do they call it? The inverse law, inverse square law, where it's like you have to be right up against it to get like perfect efficiency. But then as you gap it, like if you have glass over the top of it or you have a spacer between it, just that little bit of distance will drop off dramatically how effective that magnetic field is at transferring the heat.
Oh, linear actuators like Mythbuster bridge vibro. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, linear actually. Wait, so the bridge buster episode, did they use?
Or they tried to get the feet to?
I thought they used. I thought they used pneumatic.
I don't think they put enough effort into that particular myth. I think they.
So a linear guide by position and motion is all magnetic. I mean, that's cool. If they can build a linear actuator that's like a stepper, where it just goes right to the spot you tell it to, and it just hangs out there and it's sturdy, that'd be a game changer for 3D printing. That would be amazing. Not only that, but you wouldn't have all the friction in the system that you have with the belt and everything like that, right? I mean, you're not using any teeth or any cogging or any friction to move it. As long as you keep the surfaces lubricated and bearings, the magnetism is pulling the thing to where it needs to be. The only resistance you'd really run into in that system is the wires to actually go to the print head.
I guess it would be like a hydraulic thing, right? Basically,
well, he's saying it would work on magnetism, but I'm trying to figure out like how that would work. Like, I guess if you unrolled a stepper motor, like if you think of a stepper motor as each cog is a magnetic, like you're alternating through multiple magnetic things to step it, right? Like that's why you have to have a controller.
Totally. Like, again, this is way outside my knowledge base, but just looking at the types, apparently the 4 types of linear actuators, this sounds like a piezoelectric one, where it says here, piezoelectric actuators use voltage to expand a material, usually a ceramic. They allow for extremely fine positioning down to the sub-nanometer range with very short ranges in motion and can bear extreme loads exceeding several tons. One advantage of using electric motors is that piezoelectric actuators generate little or no measurable magnetic field. Other advantages.
Where did you share the link? I can't see it. It might have gotten filtered by the bot.
I was wondering about the link too. It didn't. I didn't see it didn't get caught by the auto mod or anything.
Just tell us what to search for on like Google or Bing, like whatever you search to find it.
It could also be way in the past.
Yeah, because I'm only going to
scroll back. I'm only going to scroll back so far.
I scrolled back like 4 pages and I don't see it.
If it got
filtered, it might be filtered. Yeah, it probably got filtered. Because we do that so people don't come in here and just drop freaking links for everything. Well, no, that'd be cool. That would be really, really cool. And then there's other types of drives too, like harmonic drives are like really cool, but they're like super fucking expensive to manufacture.
Linear and motors, precision. Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Linear motors, how they work.
Magnets.
Because linear motor sounds familiar to me, but I'm just not envisioning it like you're saying.
The one that I see here by Lasix, it looks like it's right out of a CNC machine. Making quite an impact packaging industries and CNC machines. Some say when someone says motor, the image is blah, 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 something spinning, or packaging CNC require motors in linear.
See, this looks like what you're using for like a maglev train or something, where you're basically initiating current to move something forward or backwards. But how would that be like a stepper? Like I'm trying to figure out how it's like a stepper. You're not just inducing current to move something. You need to move it a step. You need to cog it. Let's see here.
You could. I mean, just looking at the example that they're showing in this little video, why not? Because like they're showing filling bottles, but that's still like a step, right? You move 4 bottles down.
If it's moving to a precise location,
it's moving this rod with magnetics. Interesting. Okay.
And it is going to a precise location.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's cool.
It makes sense. I don't see why.
So why aren't they using question? This is a dumb question, but why aren't they using them right now? Is it just like stupid expensive, or because I mean, is it just cost involved? Because I mean, this seems like the perfect thing. I mean, we already have expensive printers with like linear rails in them and stuff. It seems like this would just be a slightly more expensive linear rail.
Okay, so 3-phase linear motor.
Probably money. Yeah.
They like wrap this rod in a coil. So this,
did you know how quiet that would be?
Yeah.
That like just having like a linear rail with magnets moving the head.
I see how this works. This is essentially a more controlled railgun sort of concept, right? You got a ferromagnetic rod.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
And it moves the rod back and forth depending on the direction of the electricity.
That makes perfect sense.
Or
okay,
I know that's kind of oversimplifying it. It's not.
No. I think you nailed it.
Polarity of
not as much power, right? It's like it's not as powerful because I mean a railgun, you're putting so much power through it, you're literally heating the projectile.
Launches
but I have seen rail guns where they've misfired because the cap blows and the projectile literally just comes to a stop in the barrel.
Yeah,
because it gets locked.
Nothing.
Yeah, because there's no magnet to pull it. It stops the sequence. So the next, because the way it's, if you want to know how like a rail gun works, you have a metal object that you induce an eddy current in that moves it, right? Like you're basically creating a magnetic field that pushes it along. But what you're doing is you're actually having the magnet ahead. You have a whole rail of magnets on the bottom and the top, and the magnets turn on, which attract the object. But then the magnets behind repel, which then push the object. And then the magnet that was calling it then turns into a repelling magnet. And they basically go through the circuit and they follow the round down the barrel, and they know its position, and they alternate the magnets perfectly to push the projectile, like create a wave to push it. But if it fails and the magnet stays on instead of turning off and flipping the polarity, it'll grab the projectile and just stop it in dead space. So it almost sounds like this is like a rail gun with a ton of tiny steps instead of like a bunch of big steps. It's a bunch of
much
tiny
more
steps.
controlled. It's much more controlled. And like I've seen this sort of thing with like in small experiments and stuff where like you'll see like a small piece of steel floating in like a ring, a little electromagnetic ring, similar sort of thing. You control the I think it's the polarity. Basically, if electricity flows this way, the rod's going to go that way. If electricity flows this way, the rod goes that way. And so
the metal's going to always want to align with the field.
And depending on how I don't know how the electrics of this work, but I imagine this could be very, very fine. Like you could get very, very slight control over this sort of a thing.
It sounds like the challenges with it though are the backlash.
The electronic.
That's the thing that they would have to figure out with 3D printing is the backlash, because the reason that they use belts and the reason that they use screw drives is because the steppers are absolute, right? They don't backlash. They basically step to the spot and then that's the spot and they're good. Even with weight, because you're moving a lot of weight around really fast.
It'd be perfect, like within.
But without physical teeth that like grab it and stop it dead in space, it's going to slightly overshoot and then pull back and then vibrate a little bit. Like, have you ever seen something in a magnetic field? Like, if you fling it, it goes like this. It goes, and it overshoots, and then undershoots, and then it goes like this.
I think that's probably why this isn't more of a thing. I think you could account for that.
That would be a software problem.
The math has got to be very solid. Like, there's got to be, because like this sort of thing is what works with like trains and even in the example in this video, they're showing like an assembly line where these bottles have to line up just right. This is obviously just an example, but and who knows what sort of like play a little bit of overshoot or whatnot they could handle with how they're moving these bottles and stuff and the injector thingies that they're showing in this example. But like I think if you needed to, you could get the fine motoring that you need to make that better.
Because with 3D printers, you have to be careful because they're spitting out plastic as you're moving them. So if you overshoot even a tiny bit, that vibration is going to show a defect.
Right.
So
I think you could. It'd be very smooth. I think your movement could be very smooth.
I bet they could account for it with linear deceleration. So they already do that with modern 3D printers. Like my oldest 3D printer that I have basically goes like this. It'll go whomp as it's printing and come to a dead stop, and the printer will actually walk on the desk. And then it'll go whoop to the other side when I have it at full speed. And then so the printer's going like this the whole time it's print. It's like going back and forwards and it's just walking around the desk. And the reason it's doing that is because it's slamming the motor at full acceleration and then it's going to zero on the stepper motor and trying to stop all that mass like dead on attack, right? And it does it. The stepper motors can do it because they're strong enough to do it, but it's really hard on the belts and everything.
Right.
So the way that they fixed that with hold on a second. So modern printers, the way they solved that is with math. They basically just said add a little bit of code. You don't really see it with the eye very much, but add a little bit of code that says as it gets closer to its destination, half its velocity. Half its velocity again, half its velocity. So what it's doing now is as it's running to the other side, it still looks like it's hauling ass, but then just in the last inch, it goes, and that just tiny little bit of tuning can solve the problem. And now they've taken it a step further with something called input shaping, where now instead of just doing, deceleration based on, we kind of tuned it and played around with the settings to get it best we can. Now they put sensors on the printer that can detect how much the printer is accelerating in another direction. Is it physically moving the printer? Is it stretching the belt? Where is it in 3D space versus where it's supposed to be? And they can tune it to go as fast as humanly possible in any direction from point A to point B on any curve or whatever. And they know exactly, like through simulation and sensors, where they predict that motor is going to be. And then they can use a mathematical algorithm to correct for it. Sure. And now you can run the printer astronomically fast, even if it's got flex in the system, and it can account for all of it and tune the printer to where you get the perfect print at the highest possible speed the hardware can handle. And it's really amazing. But again, Bamboo has input shaping. Did they really take this technology that's been in development in the open source world by thousands of people and debugged, and like in big companies like Prusa putting mega money and dev resources into it? Did they really just manage to nail it right out of the gate and get the same result in the limited amount of time they had, while they were also writing a ground up firmware and creating their own slicer? Like, no, it does not compute to me. Like, everybody says, oh, but China has super cheap labor, and of course they could do that. But you know what else China has? IP theft. Every company in fucking China steals IP from everybody. They cloned iPhone. They cloned every Android phone that was sent over to be created. They clone technology because they don't enforce foreign technology laws there. And so Bamboo would have no problem looking you dead in the eye and saying, oh, we didn't steal shit, because they don't care. Unless there is a legal challenge, they're never going to get it. Nobody's ever going to get to look at it. But here's the thing. If they look at their code, if they agree to a third-party inspection, they need to make sure that they submit the original code that they shipped with the first printers, and they don't try to say, oh, here's our code today, look at it, after they've had years to, refactor it. Like, we need to see what shipped with the first printer and see what shit lines up with Marlin and what stuff lines up with Clipper. Because if you're running a print on that and you end up getting the exact same inputs and outputs out of it while it's running through all the algorithms that you're getting with Marlin and Clipper, that does not make sense that they would come to that same logical conclusion, because it's not a simple matter of math, because it changes. The algorithm will change the outputs given different hardware and different configurations. So if you're getting that same output from algorithms that are different, or that they tuned and tested and came to a different conclusion, they wouldn't produce the same result. So somebody really needs to look into that, because if we have more companies popping up that are just stealing code, throwing it in their product, now they don't have they don't have to pay for dev. So now they release a product really cheap. Everybody buys a really cheap printer, and they're like, this is awesome. We can get a printer that can do better shit than any other printer on the market for cheaper. But then what happens is, the only reason they're able to do that is because they're literally stealing code from the other companies that are paying for it. Now those other companies go out of business because they can't compete with the theft company. And then the theft company slows down everything, because now they have to develop their own shit from scratch, because they can't steal from anybody else because they ran everybody else out of business. And now all of a sudden the cost of 3D printing goes up exponentially, because they can no longer steal the features that they need and sell them as their own. They have to build everything from the ground up. And then every other company that competes will close their sources, and they will stop contributing to open source. And then every company has to create the same features from the ground up without any references from anybody else, which means now now if you have 20 printers on the market, you have to have 20 separate dev teams, 20 different budgets to all create a similar thing, but in completely different ways. And when before, everybody could just contribute to open source, and in the end, everybody got something that solved everybody's problems. And so I'm really worried about what we're going to do with open source in the future if this behavior keeps, moving on. And what I don't like is how Bamboo was so cheeky that even though they took most of their slicer code from Prusa Slicer, even though they created Print World or whatever, which is basically a ripoff of Printables, which is another Prusa product, and they release a bed slinger when their company was founded on the #1 goal and principle on their mission statement was no more bed slingers. So why the fuck is their very next printer that they create a bed slinger? I'll tell you why. Because it was a poke at Prusa. That's why they priced it the same as Prusa. They gave it the same exact build volume as Prusa, and they're even using Prusa's fucking source code and a lot of it. And I'm like, dude, you're literally publicly thrashing on the person that your product would not fucking exist if he didn't contribute all that stuff. Yeah. So I just think that that's bad form. And the problem is the community. They're like, it's a cheap printer. And I'm not, I want to be clear here, because people are getting this really mixed up with me, and it's fucking bugging me. The Bamboo is not a bad printer. It's a fantastic printer. My problem is with how the company came to it. My problem isn't with the printer. The printer is fantastically built, good build quality, good electronics. And the software, other than the stuff they added on, which is very, very buggy and has very big security risks. And right now there's actually an investigation into a super security risk that can basically allow the printer to be taken over by a bot network from any place in the world if you have UPnP enabled on your router. They're trying to fix it. surprisingly, they are being receptive to this. They haven't been receptive to bugs in the past, but now they're really taking this one seriously and they're going to fix it. So I'm actually pretty proud of them for doing that.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is it's a good printer. If you have the money, if you don't care about how they made it, then they're great. Buy one. Honestly, they print really good. I just would not trust one on my network. Like, I would definitely put it on a VLAN and I would disable UPnP on my router and keep it away from my other computers, because it is basically a device running like a full-blown fucking Linux kernel that can do all kinds of shit on your network if it's taken over. And they've said themselves they're not good at networking code at all. I mean, they literally shipped the product with completely unencrypted network traffic, which made no sense to anybody. Like, anybody could just intercept that traffic anywhere between the server and the computer. It made no sense, right? So I'm critical of those things in the company and how they came to these things. That's where my criticality is. The printer itself is fine. If you own a Bamboo, don't feel like, oh God, shame, I've ruined the world. No, it's a great printer. I would be happy to have one. Like, honestly, just from a printer perspective, where ease of use, put a thing in, hit a button, send it to the printer, and just magically shits out a cool item. It's a good printer. It is. I can't fault it for that. And I'm talking about the X1. I'm not talking about the new bed slinger. I don't know anything about the bed slinger they created. That thing, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I can speak for the X1 that it is a good printer. The X, what is the P1X or whatever, the cheaper one, same mechanics, same printer, just lesser functionality. They're well-built printers, and the software, other than the security problems and stuff, does do basically what it advertises for the most part. My problem is with how the company got there to be able to sell the printer so cheap, undercut everybody else, and fuck over all the hands that fed them. Because I don't care what they say, even if they didn't copy the code, there is no way they created a printer in that time with ground up firmware without studying the fuck out of the code that was already there. And if they studied that code to write their own code, honestly, in a court of law, that's still a big issue. Yeah. When I was at Microsoft, I had to sign an agreement saying that I would never look at code if it was under GPL, I wasn't even allowed to look at the code online, because that could influence how I write my algorithms. And at some point in time, if somebody sees that functionality and recognizes that their own, and they go back and look at my function, it's like the function, the variables are different, but the overall algorithm is the same. Microsoft could have to pay big for that. And they did. They got sued a lot for that back in the day. And so that was a very big thing. It was a terminatable effect. So they're like, if we can prove that a piece of code that you wrote basically is a modified verbatim algorithm from open source GPL code online that we can prove that you looked at, like there's no other way you could have come to this conclusion, then you're fucked. And so when I see people saying, oh no, if the code's different or it's obfuscated or they ran it through OpenGL to change it, or not OpenGL, sorry, GPL 3 to change it, that doesn't change the argument. If you take it into court and it's across 5,000 functions, the functionality is still basically identical. There's no way they could have accidentally created it when it's something that's organic like that requires a lot of trial and error. It's not something that just mathematically gets figured out. It's like a lot of trial and error it has to go through to get that to work the way it was. So, sorry, we're a little bit over on time. Okay. I'm sorry about that, brother.
That's all right. I was about to say.
I know I got to get you out of here, but if you guys have any more questions about any of this stuff, hit us up over on Twitter, man. We're both on Twitter. We're both active at Barnacules and at AuxxZillary. We'd love to answer your questions. I mean, we literally both have bad social media addictions, so we'll see your stuff over there. Thank you, Michael Cole Jensen, again for those 200 Danish kroners, and Vincent for the $20, and Bubba to Matt for throwing down $10. Woo, Bubba to Matt, yay! Woo! Woo! There we go. And if you go buy a 3D printer, hey, I'm not going to judge you if you get a Bamboo. Like, seriously, it's not a bad printer. My argument is just, I want them. You know what Bamboo would do? Like, completely put me at ease, and I'd be like, you know what? Fucking, I will eat my own words. If they get a third-party review conducted, like an outside company that will sign an NDA, that will take the open source projects, right, and compare them to the functionality of their code with full symbols and source code access, so they can do a one-to-one comparison of the function, the stack, the threads, how they're created, everything. And they can look at that and say, nope, this is completely unique and distinct and created in a completely different way, and it just looks like a similar result. Then I'll be like, hey, fucking power to them. They're the greatest dev team on fucking planet Earth, and rock on, go DJI employees. But I don't think that's the case. And until I see otherwise, I'm not going to believe it, just based on the time frame and the price that they're selling the printer. It does not make sense that with such a small team, they were able to bring that all together and sell something like that. After watching what everybody else has gone through and all the open source stuff, there's no way that they did that without direct influence from those projects, in my opinion. I have to say in my opinion, because I will say right now, I have no direct evidence, because of course I don't have the source code. Without the source code, I have no direct evidence, because the only way I could make this comparison without the source code is I would have to go through every single assembly step of multiple printers running these firmwares in multiple configurations and watch them and literally run it through pattern matching and simulation software to find the patterns where shit lines up and the curves line up. Because I'm not going to get absolute math when they use different hardware.
Right.
So to figure out the algorithm, you really have to do an apples to apples comparison of the actual source code to see how it's working. And once I saw that, hey, if they created their own thing from the ground up and it turns out this is just a big fucking mistake and they're just so good that they managed to create something accidentally that's exactly the same as what's out there without looking at it, then I'll fucking eat my words, you know. And it's like I'll go fucking get one. Like seriously. Joe Taji, thank you for the $20. That's awesome that you came in there. Woo! Helped us get our revenue up. I appreciate it, brother. So I've been lurking, enjoying the stream. Sprays Jerry with imaginary sticky white fog fluids. Ooh, I don't know if I want to be sprayed by anything. Of course, Lowell, great stream. Thank you, man. And also, Adam, thank you for the questions. We appreciate it. I know you're a Elon fanboy, and that's totally okay. And I appreciate you like throwing us some curveballs and shit to talk about. And you also had some cool information. I do appreciate you participating in chat. Just because I don't agree with you on everything doesn't mean I don't appreciate you. I absolutely do appreciate you, and I'm glad that you spent some time with us today. And that goes double for everybody else.
That's right.
And I guess we will see you next week on Saturday. And are you streaming over on Twitch this week at all?
Maybe. Just keep an eye.
All right. Keep an eye out on Twitch. You'll know if we're going to be streaming over there. I will be streaming because I missed this whole last week and a lot of drama went on. If you guys watched my stream I did last night over on Twitch, you'll know a little bit more about like I just don't watch it if you don't want to see me like emotionally fucked up. But I go through it and I kind of explain what's going on and why this last week has been a nightmare, why I've basically been disappeared. But I'm going to start coming back on Monday and try to just push through it and try to, you know, make fucking lemonade out of lemons and start working on this nerd cave and start just slowly moving in a direction. And tomorrow we're going to start building the printer.
Do it.
The Voron. After all these months, where tomorrow, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to live stream it, but my neighbor is coming over and he's demanding that fucking let's at least bust the boxes open, get some shit out and get something started to get some momentum. So I will post some pictures and stuff of that. All right. I think I've said everything needs to be said. You guys are awesome. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy every day that you wake up and you can breathe because it's a fucking gift. It genuinely is a fucking gift. And I love you, AuxxZillary. I appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you for hanging out and doing this with me. It's the best. All right. Well, and you enjoy your weekend too. All right. Peace out, man. Later. Let's see. Did that work? End stream.